Once again, OBS not working, huh? Well, no. The Stream Deck doesn't work. Welcome to the show, everybody. Yeah, we're having Stream Deck problems, but it's cool because we're here. And we got fancy news for you. October surprise, I guess. They're running this hoax. Kamala Harris comes out, gives a press conference where she's like, Donald Trump says he wants generals like Hitler. Yeah, the only thing is it's anonymous sources. The conversation allegedly happened a long time ago, and no one believes it actually happened. The story is largely debunked by people who are in and around this. Staffers who work with Trump said this conversation never happened, and they're trying to besmirch his good name over a fallen soldier whose family is like, this never happened, and we are supporting Donald Trump. They're claiming that Trump was grumbling because he was like, did I agree to pay for this funeral? Oh, it's so expensive. Yeah, absolutely nuts. Well, following this, Donald Trump has slammed Kamala Harris for fanning the flames of violence. And sure enough, we got a bunch of stories for you. Charlie Kirk apparently had someone was threatening them, got arrested. We've got breaking reports, this crazy video of a woman going to someone's house and screaming at him. Yeah, we got to chill everything out, and we'll talk about that. But we also have Poly Market once again. We're keeping up with the latest because we are less than 2 weeks out from Election Day. We are in election month, whatever that means, I guess. So it's going to be hot, to say the least, and we'll get into all the latest stories and details pertaining to the election and those polls. Before we do, my friends, head over to castbrew.com and buy Cast Brew coffee. Why? It's good. Appalachian Nights, everybody's favorite. Rise with Roberto Jr. It's a breakfast blend. It's a light roast. Very good. And then we got Colombian appears to be sold out. That's unfortunate. But of course, there's always Ian's Graphene Dream. If you ever wonder what it was like to be in the mind of Ian, drink this coffee. I'm kidding. There's nothing wrong with the coffee. It's normal coffee, so you wouldn't actually be in his mind. But it does taste good, and it's low acidity, and everybody likes it. And of course, you can head over to boonieshq.com and pick up a Boonies skateboard. We are sold. Oh, man, we're sold out of Step on Sneck and Find Out. It's great that we sold out, but we will have more in stock soon. However, I have good news. The Boobies is still available. So if you're a fan of the Blue-Footed Boobies board, which everybody loves, we have sold like 300 of these already. There are still several sizes left, but they're going quickly. And then, of course, we've got a Mr. Bocus skateboard if you're a fan of the show, and the Tim Pool Rooster board. New designs are coming out soon. Also, head over to timcast.com, click Join Us to become a member, so that you can hang out with like-minded individuals in the Discord and also help support the show. But I do have some information. We have a behind-the-scenes, members-only short video breaking down the Josh Seiter social experiment, as it were. So,
out there, I know this is going to come as a shock to a lot of the liberals out there. I just want to say,
October 25th, members only timcast.com. We have a behind the scenes with Josh Seiter and Alex Stein.
Before we start the show, you should probably take a hit of that.
And that's it. That's Josh Seiter wiping off his makeup. For those that don't know, this is a guy who for 5 months said that he was trans, followed all the rules of gender ideology, and was still attacked and insulted over this. We have a behind the scenes look at the big reveal with his explanation and other behind the scenes information and video and circumstances. So become a member at timcast.com to watch that, and that'll be up on Friday, I believe at around 11 a.m., so definitely want to check that out. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, share the show with everyone you know. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Brandon Buckingham.
Thank you so much for having me, Tim.
Who are you? What do you do?
I'm a YouTuber. I guess you could call me an on-the-ground journalist or just some guy who fucks around with a camera. But yeah, lately I've been traveling all across the world in America and filming different communities, people, and sometimes just fucking around and drinking in the streets.
You've seen some pretty crazy stuff.
Yeah, no one's heard from me for a while. So yeah, I was recently involved in a shooting in Chicago where 6 gunmen hopped out on us at 3 in the morning, and they had switches, emptied their guns.
Full auto.
Yeah, I was with 5 other people. 4 of them got hit. One of which was my cameraman. Bullet hit him in the neck.
Why did they do that?
Well, I think as my channel is growing, when I link up with rappers or gang members and I do a piece about them, the rival side or the opposing side then paints me as the enemy. I don't think I was targeted necessarily, but
this is 100% true. I remember when Vice had gone down and interviewed a bunch of gangs in Chicago, and I straight up told them, I was like, you guys are going to be marked by the rival gangs. Like, you're giving cred and visibility exposure to a faction that is at odds with another faction. But we'll talk about all that. So pretty wild. Glad to have you here. We got Ian hanging out.
Hey guys, good to be here, man. Ian Crossland. You probably know me by now if you watch the show. Very happy to be here. Musician, actor. Let's rock and roll, baby.
Hello, everybody. My name is Phil Labonte. I'm the lead singer of the heavy metal band All That Remains. I'm an anti-communist and a counter-revolutionary. Let's get into it.
We got the story from CNBC. Harris blasts Trump on reported Hitler comments, says he wants unchecked power. Really? It's so tiring. It's absurd. It makes no sense. The story's been refuted. There's no evidence. There's no sources. Let me tell you guys, you don't need to hear it from me. A lot of people like Donald Trump. They're not going to believe it anyway. But for anybody out there who doesn't like Donald Trump, news organizations used to require 3 sources if they didn't have direct evidence. That means if you were going to try to claim that Trump said that he wanted generals like Hitler had, which is the claim they're making, you would need 3 individuals on the record saying independently and individually, I was there, here's what happened. That way you could say, hey, we got 3 people. Now what they do is they're like, I heard this guy. I ain't telling you who it is, by the way, but he claims this thing happened. Then when you get an on-the-record dispute, they still run the story. Take a look at this from The Atlantic. The Atlantic ran the story, Trump. I need the kind of generals that Hitler had. The Republican nominee's preoccupation with dictators and disdain for the American military is deepening. This is fake news. And unfortunately, there are people who don't know how to parse through this. When we scroll down, we'll get to the point where they actually try and run the quote. They say, the personal qualities displayed by Trump in his reaction to the cost of the Guillen funeral, probably pronouncing that wrong, contempt, rage, parsimony, racism, hardly surprised his inner circle, blah, 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 blah. They say as his presidency drew to a close and in the years since, he has become more and more interested in the advantages of dictatorship and the absolute control over the military that he believes it would deliver. Quote, I need the kind of generals that Hitler had, Trump said in a private conversation in the White House, according to 2 people who heard him say this. Quote, people who were totally loyal to him, that follow orders. And then they add in parentheses, quote, this is absolutely false. Pfeiffer wrote in an email, President Trump never said this. So let me ask you a question. You got a guy on the record quoted who said that never happened. And we're supposed to believe that 2 random people we don't know who claim it did happen. And that's good information, good enough for the public to believe.
I love it. Hearsay. Just say anything all the time. He said, she said, run the story. They have Trump in quotes saying something that was overheard. That's great.
I don't even think that this is about trying to convince voters. I think this is preparing the landscape for a Trump win and some kind of illegal action afterwards to prevent Trump from taking office. So all of the Trump is because they've tried these tactics before and they haven't worked. They're not really effective. All they do is they gin up their base, but they don't convince anyone. Like your average, if you're an undecided voter, you've heard this story a million times in the past 10 years or 8 years or whatever. It's not compelling. If it wasn't compelling in 2016, 17, 18, then it's not compelling now, so especially seeing as the general opinion on Trump has softened by people in the middle. So now this isn't about trying to convince people. It's about preparing the landscape for some kind of action should Trump win. And I think that this is what you're going to see going until the end of until the election, because the Harris campaign doesn't think that they can actually convince voters anymore. They
tried calling Trump racist. And it didn't work, but it did get clicks. They then called him the most racist, and it didn't work, but it did get them clicks. And then they tried saying he's almost as bad as Hitler, got clicks, but they got to keep escalating it. So eventually got to the point where they said he is Hitler, then he's worse than Hitler. Now he wants to have generals that are just like Hitler. But here's my favorite. The Atlantic wrote this only, I think this was last week. What is this, October 18th? Yeah. Trump is speaking like Hitler, Stalin, and Mussolini. Yes, that would make him a fascist communazi. If they want to combine all of those dictators, he's a fascist communazi. I don't know how those things come together, but they're basically saying he is speaking like a dictator. We get it. Now, Hitler didn't work. So they're like, what if we add Stalin and Mussolini to that as well? I mean, maybe that scares people. I like including him. That's good. Yeah, just like a fruit punch of dictators that Trump could be like. Yeah, not just Hitler. Not just Hitler, because as conservatives come out and said, the communists were bad too. They killed tens of millions, 100 million plus people. They were like, okay, we'll just put Hitler and a communist and then include a fascist. What did he say? This is just a grab your mic, Ian.
Thanks, man. Thanks for reminding me, sir.
You're not wearing your headphones.
What did he? That's a good point. I haven't been wearing them lately. What did he say that they think he sounds like Hitler, Mussolini? Now, Hitler did kind of sound like Mussolini. Mussolini was his idol. He idolized the guy, and he kind of, garnered the Nazi fascist regime after Mussolini's regime. He kind of based it off of it. But Stalin, I mean, speaks like dictator. Maybe. What was Trump? I mean, what the?
I don't think that it matters.
It's just a.
It doesn't. It's not about what Trump said. Like I said, it doesn't matter what Trump does. This isn't about Trump, and it's not about the election. This is about preparing the landscape so that way they can justify saying he's so bad we can't allow him to take office.
I think Civil War.
I mean, look,
I'm jumping right to 11, but let me tell you why real quick, because I don't want to just leave it there. It's because right now, Democrats are leading in early voting, but Republicans have made massive gains. Republicans are expected to win on Election Day. This means that Democrats and Republicans have two different elections at the same time. The idea that you can have a day of election, Republicans are like, on Election Day, we all go vote. And Democrats are like, we can collect votes throughout the month. Those are two completely different systems operating in parallel at different times. And then we compare the numbers and see which side got more. Republicans recently started participating in absentee and mail-in voting more so. And so they have massive gains now. So right now what they're saying is because Republicans are closing the gap in absentee and mail-in, it's expected that Republicans are going to win based on the data we already have from the Democrat version of what an election is. However, if there's still only 5 million Republican voters, I mean, a hypothetical number, and 2.5 million vote early, 2.5 million will vote on day of. So if we're seeing Republicans embrace mail-in and early voting now, it doesn't necessarily mean there will be more votes on Election Day. But the reason why I said Civil War is I think it's important people actually consider what I see with what you're saying, Phil, how they're laying out the framework for what comes. It's not about the election. It's about what comes after. We've talked about in the past that when Trump tries to deport all of these illegal immigrants, they're going to start running photos of buses, of trains, of the military operation, of police, and they're going to juxtapose them with World War II and Holocaust photos and say, see, we told you. Mm-hmm. They're going to use all of this to prime and prep the people who live in Democrat weirdo world, who believe these things despite them being unsourced. It's nonsense. And then you have the fact that I think it's fair to say Republicans come out and they go, Election Day is November 5th, and the Constitution prescribes a single day for voting. And Democrats go, we don't care. We're going to vote all month and collect ballots and then turn them in 9 days afterwards so you can count them, and then 13 days after the election determine who won. Those are two completely different systems. Republicans tolerate the Democrats' version of events and then consider their outside of the rules numbers.
This is also in conjunction with, I believe it was a DOD Directive 5240.01, which is allowing the intelligence organization or intelligence apparatus to work in conjunction with law enforcement. One of the key points, it says, the directive outlines policies for intelligence component support to law enforcement agencies, including potential use of lethal force. Now, this is inside the United States, right? These are things that are supposed to be prohibited by the Constitution. CIA is not supposed to operate in the U.S., but the Directive 5240.01, it's an internal Department of Defense policy document that details procedures for DoD intelligence components assistance to U.S. law enforcement. The directive has undergone revisions with some of the most recent versions published on September 27th, 2024. Rumors have circulated about a reissued directive allegedly targeting individuals who raise concerns about U.S. government activities. That's Elon Musk. That's Joe Rogan. That's us here. That is...
Not me.
You think so?
I'm kidding.
But people that raise concerns about government activities.
Yes,
that's the quote.
The 2016 version of
that's
the DoD.
the point of the United States. It is a concern against.
I'm aware. Let me go through this. The 2016 version of the DoD Manual 5240.01, published on August 8th, 2016, focuses on intelligence oversight, ensuring independent monitoring of intelligence activities within the DoD. The 2020 update to the 2007 issuance of the directive and the 2016 manual are mentioned as points of comparison, with some speculating about language differences and potential implications. The point is, they've authorized the DoD and intelligence apparatus, that would be CIA, working in conjunction with law enforcement. That's to target American citizens, which is, it's supposed to be off limits. But this, in conjunction with the stuff that they're saying, that Kamala Harris has said today, the narrative that's being spun, I don't think that it's far-fetched to say that they're going to do something should Trump win to prevent him from taking office. And honestly, like I said, everybody that's in the podcasting space, everyone that's a dissenting voice, we'll all have targets on our back too.
Well, the entire United States is a dissenting voice against government.
That's not true at all.
That's the whole purpose. Is it's a revolution against.
I understand that.
Against the crown. You're going to start this again. We are talking
we're
about
in
the
constant
United States government.
We are in constant revolution. Our government is a constant revolution.
You're
People
derailing
coming
a
in and leaving.
serious conversation.
They can target anybody, dude.
derailing
You
a
understand what that
serious
means?
conversation.
Anyone that complains about the
Ian,
government. This is not a derailment.
The
Tim,
point,
I was going to call you
the
Tim
point
because I'm so
is,
used to it.
The point is, this is specifically going to be targeting people that don't support the general narrative. They're not going to target MSNBC.
Well, you're assuming that, but you're probably right. But it's still, they could.
They're not going to target MSNBC. They're not going to target people in the administration. They're not going to target NBC. They're not going to target people that are normal, that are normies, that aren't involved in political action or in even in criticizing the federal government. They're going to target people that have been critical of the government. People, like I said, like Joe Rogan, Elon Musk, Glenn Beck, Tucker Carlson. Obviously, they would target us. People that are influential. You know, those are the people that they would be after. And they're going. This is the point of this stuff is to prepare the landscape. So they say Donald Trump is the big Hitler. Donald Trump is super Hitler. And then after that, if they go ahead and throw him in jail, which I totally believe they will do if Kamala Harris wins, and if not, I think that they will try to throw him in jail and say that he didn't win the election, or they'll say that he's some kind of threat or something like that. And I don't have any kind of like evidence or anything, but that's just my gut feeling. But I mean, why wouldn't they? They've lied about people. They threw a boatload of people in jail after January 6th. Steve Bannon's still in jail right now. They put Roger Stone in jail. They're trying to put Trump in jail using the any means they have. Why wouldn't they try to toss people in jail?
Biden yesterday said we need to put him away or something.
Lock him up.
Lock him up politically, which is what, a political imprisonment?
No. He said we need to lock him up. The whole crowd starts clapping and cheering, and then he goes, politically lock him up.
Which is still like a political imprisonment, still an imprisonment. Like they locked up a lot of people for political reasons.
They've politically lock him up. That's even worse, actually.
Yeah, they've put a lot of people in prison, and I don't see any reason for them to stop, especially if Kamala Harris wins. They'll feel like they have a mandate.
Don't you feel like some of this labeling is losing its power, though? Like everyone being literally Hitler all the time?
It's not about getting people to believe it. It's about creating a narrative that justifies action. Doesn't matter, because the people that are Kamala Harris supporters, people that are Democrat supporters, they already believe this.
They'll eat it up.
Yeah, they're going to eat it up. So what they're doing isn't trying to convince people. Like I said, this isn't about getting votes. This isn't about convincing the very, very narrow margin or the very few people that are undecided. This is about creating a narrative that will justify actions that are illegal, justify actions that would go contrary to the vote should Donald Trump win. It's about preparing the landscape for action. It's not about convincing anyone of anything.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I was at January 6th all day, and they talk about the insurrectionists, the white supremacists that were there, and I thought that the news coverage of that was shocking compared to my on-the-ground perspective of what I saw at January 6th. And I'm happy I didn't walk in that building.
Yeah,
I'll say that, because it was easy. You could have walked right in. It seemed like they were just letting people in.
Yeah, I'm happy that I was posting from New Hampshire.
Yeah.
I want to jump to this tweet that we got from Jen Kuger of the Young Turks. He tweeted this out today. I have never seen both sides of an election this confident. One of them is very wrong. Both sides are in their own bubble and don't realize there is a reality outside of those bubbles. So whoever loses is going to be absolutely shocked. Kamala Harris was losing in 6 out of the last 7 polls in Michigan, but now she's up by 4 in that state in the last poll. This thing keeps swinging back and forth. I've never seen it so unpredictable. I'll be nice because I think he's on the right track, but Jen Kuger, I don't think he has a mind for this space. It is true that no one knows what's going to happen, but Trump supporters absolutely are not sitting here screaming, we've got this one in the bag. In fact, despite the polls and Polymarket and everything favoring Trump, they're screaming, everyone get out and vote, get everyone to vote because there's going to be some shenanigans. We've got to swamp the vote. There is still fear within Republicans they're going to lose. And despite the fact that Polymarket has Trump at right now 61.7 and Kamala Harris is 38.5, Real Clear Politics has Trump winning every single battleground state and all battleground states in aggregate. Democrats are still saying, we're going to win. And it may not be because they're deluded. It's because they have to say it They can't drop the morale of their voter base by saying there's no point, don't even bother. So certainly there are elements of both sides that are confident. But I think what we're seeing here with the polls, Polymarket, is the general view of the public is that Donald Trump and the Republicans are going to win and win bigly, but no one knows for sure. I think it's fair to say if Democrats are claiming they're going to win, it is because they are intentionally ignoring the reality of this. So to say it's both sides and it's swinging back and forth and nobody knows is totally wrong, but at least somewhat on the right track.
You know, I heard about Chunk Uyghur. I heard he was literally Hitler.
I heard that too.
Isn't that crazy?
You just heard it just
Let me
from him.
let me show you a source.
Report on it.
Yeah, a source close to YouTube told me that he was literally Hitler. And
So is his nephew as
You
well.
have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Take a look at this from the battlegrounds. Trump is up 0.9. So he says, like, what did he say? Michigan? He says Kamala was down in the polls in Michigan. Okay, well, in Michigan right now, Trump is up 0.2 in aggregate. And if we jump in, he is correct that Quinnipiac has +4 for Kamala Harris. But around the exact same time frame, Trafalgar has Trump up 2. These polls are largely meaningless. It's fair to say no one knows for sure. Hence, Republicans are screaming, get as many people to vote as possible. But what happens?
Well, my thoughts are I've been studying Imperial strategy a lot lately. 1947 is when the British Empire technically ended. After World War II, they basically turned it into the liberal economic order. They're like, we're done with this, like, having an emperor guy control it. We're just going to make a liberal economic order controlled by the CIA and MI6. So, like, I was studying
CIA didn't exist in 1947.
Well, 1949 is when they officially launched it, but it was around, it had a different name, like, since the 30s or something. 1975, there's the Australian coup. I don't know if you guys have really ever studied this, but they appointed a governor general to overthrow this Australian prime minister that was Go was his name, and he wanted to get out of Vietnam and take away Pine Gap from American sovereignty. He's like Australia first, and they're like, no, that can't happen. Empire must succeed. So the CIA got this governor general, got the king to like appoint him, and like it's basically like late stage Roman Republic where the Praetorian Guard's in control of the emperor, and if the emperor crosses them, he's done for.
Are you suggesting that polls and predictions are meaningless because the deep state will put Kamala in?
Yes. And I think that they like closeness because it makes good media attention to think it's within 2. But
it makes Republicans think we have a fighting chance if we keep pushing.
And the CIA is controlling the game. And I think that they're going to, it's stacked against us. I mean, I still think go out and vote because Donald Trump did win in 2016, but they didn't feel threatened against him in 2016, whoever they are. This strategy, this imperial strategist.
You know, it'd be really funny.
Bureaucrats.
If it would be really funny if that Trump was supposed to win on the merits, but the Democrats, the deep state was cheating to install Hillary, but then the Russians pressed a button turning off their computer so that Trump actually won on the merits. And then they were like, oh, crap, it was the Russians, but the Russians actually didn't cheat to help Trump. You know what I mean? Like a multi-layered conspiracy of conflicting intelligence agencies from Russia to the U.S.
We need to stop them from cheating. And they're like, they're stopping us.
Exactly. Because of Russia, we lost, but we were cheating. I'm not saying that happened. I'm saying, wouldn't it be funny if what actually happened is that Trump did win, but Democrats were going to press a button to flip the votes to support Hillary, but then the Russians flipped a button to flip their votes back. So Trump ended up winning normally. And then they were like, how did we not win?
The riggers. It's rigged.
It does feel like we're part of like a pre-planned thing. But Trump winning in 2016 gave me outside of that perspective. I was and I consider this a form of being black-pilled, feeling like, look, the CIA runs the show. It always has. Kennedy got offed. You know, they overthrew the prime minister in Australia in 1975. He wasn't serving the king or whatever, whoever's running the show, MI6. I don't know, man. I think Trump does represent American sovereignty in the sense he kind of gives like business first, local economics first, and that there's like a global governance scheme that's kind of like trying to position and control the world through economics and military force if they have to. And Trump's kind of like indicates it's in the way.
Control the world through economics. What do you?
Well, they want this liberal economic dollar.
What is your concern about that?
The vulnerability of fiat currency, that if they can print as much as they want and bribe people, like bribe countries and buy them.
So, I mean, I understand that the goal for a lot of countries or for the United States is to have people use the dollar, and because that props up the dollar and allows them to, overspend and stuff like that. Do you believe that is for nefarious intent? And if you do, Why?
Yeah, the U.S. aid. It's basically the central cortex of the empire. You know, it's called U.S. aid. I don't know. Doesn't mean aid. You guys familiar with it off the top of your heads? It's
No, this
International
is your
Development. It's
story,
the
homie.
Agency for International Development. U.S. Agency for International Development. It controls like the Department of Defense, the CIA, and it's like the center go through for all these agencies. It's not really supposed to have a center go through. They're supposed to be independent. So the U.S. aid got created, and its kind of job is to go create. Mike Benz knows this stuff real well, and I think he's coming on the show pretty soon. We can go deep on U.S. aid. Is to create value outside of the U.S. And what they'll do is they'll buy countries. They'll basically flood their markets with U.S. dollars through bribery, and then take control of their economies. And that's kind of been the
When you
tactic.
say take control, what do you mean by take control?
They make sure that they're on their currency.
So using the dollar.
Yeah.
But do you mean when you say take control, it implies like there's the U.S. trying to direct their economy? Is that what you're
I don't
saying?
know if it's the U.S., but it's whoever's controlling
said
the monetary.
USAID, right?
USAID is the organization that's
But
running
yeah,
it.
right, and it goes through the IMF, the World Bank, et cetera. They use SWIFT payment.
Yeah, the Bank
basic
for International
structure-
Settlement.
Can you steelman the existence of the USAID?
USAID is a real thing. It exists,
Yeah,
and they
Go ahead.
They provide money and resources on the surface to foreign countries, and many accuse them of actually being a subversive force. That, for instance, in Ukraine, there are a lot of people that claim USAID was actually the structure by which they implemented the overthrowing of the Yanukovych government to create a more pro-Western government.
Mm-hmm.
So the structure this is basically the Confessions of the Economic Hitman. You're familiar with that book?
No, actually, I'm not.
In order for the liberal economic order to maintain control, they first go and say, "Hey, you've got a developing nation. We want you to do what we want, and we're going to give you tons of money. You're going to get a big old stack of U.S. dollars. We're going to build roads, McDonald's, grocery stores. You're going to be a developed nation." And if they say no, they say, "Okay, if you don't do it, you get the stick. Carrot or the stick? What do you pick?" And if they refuse the carrot, then they'll try to remove them through a coup of some sort.
Okay.
If the coups fail, then you get a Saddam Hussein or a Gaddafi type scenario.
Okay.
That's the claim made. It's the book Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
Yeah.
What is true, however, is that, the IMF offers loans to developing nations.
Yeah.
And the simplest version of it, I would argue the non-conspiratorial or steelman argument of the IMF is it's a bank that give out loans to developing countries because they believe if we develop in this nation and build businesses, we'll get labor back in kind and it'll pay back the loan. But what ends up happening is most of these countries develop massive debt to an international bank they can't pay back and then just become indentured servant vassal states to an international structured, whatever you want to call it. And then when you cross the line, they'll kick you out of the SWIFT payment system so your credit cards don't work no more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The point that I was trying to get is like Ian is oftentimes you're talking about these things without actually fleshing out the argument you make, and you imply a lot of nefarious things, but I've never really heard you articulate what it is that you find so objectionable. Like the other night when you were talking about the emperor, you're like, well, it's not supposed to be, and it's like, well, why not?
Yeah, this
What do you mean?
is a good question, Ian. What is objectionable about a method of control by which you offer resources and then put someone in debt?
Well, I mean, if it was at their will, if it wasn't like you were saying earlier about this hitman strategy, like we're going to control your nation one way or another, and you get to pick. Do you want to be bribed out and just be a served to us, like, and pay us back for the rest of your life and owe us interest on all our loans to you? Or do you want us to remove you and then take control of your country? Or do you want us to invade and take it by force? It's your choice. That's my problem with it, is this strategy. If it was just like, hey, do you want some money? You'll end up paying us back in the long run. If not, okay, that's fine. Do your thing.
But if it's
that'd be a different story.
If it's a developing nation, like that doesn't have a lot of economic activity, right? And they're giving loans to these countries so that way they can develop they can have a functioning economy or have a more prosperous economy, and it helps the people of the country. Why is that bad?
Well, I mean, helps it. If it helps the people of the country, it does a lot of times lift people out of poverty. That's true.
I think my point being, like, the argument that you're making sounds like an argument against capitalism, right? Against the method that we use to fund projects, and that kind of boils down to an argument against capitalism. And capitalism is the best system to raise people out of poverty. The reason we don't have a total poverty be the norm globally, and it's not. We've got I think less than 10% of the population is in abject poverty anymore. I think the UN said, and by 2035 you're going to get rid of all objective poverty, which is living on less than $1 a day. Different amounts of money are necessary in different countries to keep people fed and stuff. But capitalism is the engine that has raised the standard of living for people globally forever. Even China, China was a basket case of an economy until the 70s or something like that, when Nixon went and opened it up a little bit. China decided to open up markets, and then they started to actually produce something for the people. People stopped starving all the time. So the argument sounds like when you talk about it, it sounds like you're against, the liberal economic order. It's liberalism is generally good, right? And the economic order that has been produced has raised a massive amount of people, billions of people out of poverty. So I'm not sure what your argument against it is, when it's actually done really great things for billions of human beings.
Well, one would be the centralization of control. That makes me nervous, because if crazy people get in control of that system, if there's one system and everybody relies on this one economic order, if crazy people get in there we don't like this type of person and we don't like that kind of culture, you're whoa, hold on, this is Earth, we're all in this together. It's not your 80 people's decision of who gets to go poor and who gets to live. And that's one concern, is centralization of control. Another one is look what they did in Libya. Libya was an example of Gaddafi wanting to get off the US dollar, and I think he wanted to adopt a gold standard, and they were that's not going to fly, bro. And they just basically killed the man and took the country by force.
He wanted an African Union, and he wanted to trade oil and gold, and that's against the wishes of the Western powers.
Mm-hmm.
So they take him out.
And so you see what happens when it's attempted.
And we should move on, absolutely, because you're just getting too esoteric, and that's a culture war conversation.
Well, yeah, this is for Mike Benz,
so
too.
Let's jump to the post-millennial. Trump campaign calls out stone-cold loser Kamala for continuing to stoke the flames of violence in her brief remarks to reporters. So this, of course, is following Kamala Harris's making this ridiculous statement about Trump wanting, generals like Hitler, which has been refuted by people named and on the record, and only supported by unnamed nobodies no one's ever heard of. We don't know who they're talking about. Quote, Kamala Harris is a stone-cold loser who is increasingly desperate because she is flailing and her campaign is in shambles. That is why she continues to peddle outright lies and falsehoods that are easily disproven. The fact is that Kamala's dangerous rhetoric is directly to blame for the multiple assassination attempts against President Trump, and she continues to stoke the flames of violence all in the name of politics. She is despicable, and her grotesque behavior proves she is wholly unfit for office. Well, how's about this one? Pennsylvania McDonald's franchise retains security after Trump's visit leads to threats. What a ridiculous case, man. The owner of a Pennsylvania McDonald's that made news over the weekend after Trump went there has retained private security following threats made to the location. Jim Worthington, a key organizer of Trump's visit to the Pennsylvania delegation, blah, 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 told the Daily Caller the McDonald's has received threatening phone calls and social media messages after the former president's appearance. In response, Giacomo Antonio, who had already hired private security ahead of the event, retained their services to protect his employees. Jessica Miho, a Bucks County resident, described the heightened security when she visited the McDonald's. We walked in, it seemed fine. We ordered and we sat down, but then we looked to our left and there were several armed guards just sitting there. One of the guards stepped outside and I saw him walking around our car. I thought he was checking if we have our insurance or something. Then my husband and I are like, these guys are security. These guys are really watching and seeing what's going on. It was then I made the connection to Trump. Despite the threats, Worthington emphasized that the community has overwhelmingly supported the restaurant. The community is really embracing it, and a lot of people have come here since Sunday just to patronize the restaurant. Now, I don't think it's solely just Kamala Harris that is causing things like this to happen. But certainly when she goes and gives a press conference, she's actually doing a town hall later tonight, which we don't care to watch because it's probably going to be painful, empty words where she uses lots of them to say nothing. But it is true that as Democrats go on TV over and over again and prime a nation wound up as tight as can be, eventually that spring snaps back into the other direction, that energy gets released. And now you've got a McDonald's having to have private security because of death threats. There's a ton of crazy videos, right? We got this video that went viral. A woman goes to someone's house for no reason and asks her why she's voting for Trump and then yells at her, flicks her off. Lady, why did you come to this? Could you imagine you're at home and someone knocks on your door and for no reason, I just don't like you because you voted for Trump, and now I'm going to scream in your face. These people are unhinged. And if some random old woman is willing to cross that line of going to a stranger's house to insult them, imagine what someone who's truly crazy is willing to do as they ramp up this rhetoric. So I agree with Donald Trump.
Castle doctrine. I'm just joking.
Well, I mean, if someone breaks into your house and is threatening your life, we hope it doesn't get to that point.
Yeah.
But that's what I fear if the rhetoric keeps escalating in this regard. Kamala Harris and Democrats saying Trump is going to be Hitler. They're claiming he's going to use the military against the American public. He's never said that. That's insane. Look, man, it's projection. They say that Republicans are doing this thing and they're going to do that when Democrats are the ones who have a tendency for street level violence. Republicans don't do this. They try and cite January 6th over and over again, despite the fact that it's Democrats that in 2017 ransacked D.C. because Trump got elected. Then you have Democrats in May of 2020 setting fire to St. John's Church and firebombing the White House. And you have consistently with, say, the Summer of Love protests, it is leftists and Democrats. It's not Democrat leadership. It's run-of-the-mill regular folks who vote Democrat who are joining these protests and engaging in extreme degrees of violence.
It's sort of like that phenomenon of like people that have been abused do the abuse to other people. You'd think someone that receives abuse would be like, understand how horrible it is, worse than anyone else, and be the most likely not to do it again. But it's the weird cycle of like, look, it happened to me, so I'm going to project it onto others. And with people supporting movements that are perpetuating violence, like the pretty brutal burning down of cities and stuff during these riots, and just kind of like being kind of okay with it, you'll see the projection of that outside. It's like they're forcing that kind of abusive behavior now outside after they allowed it to happen, and the cognitive dissonance of like making themselves think it's normal because they don't want to seem like they were a victim or part of a problem. That's, I think, a lot of what's going on.
My concern is, well, I will start by saying Republicans, what is it, 1 out of 10 instances, is there someone on the right doing something? It's just been consistently over the past decade, as far as I've seen, longer than a decade, since going back to Occupy. What did Tea Party do? You ever see Tea Parties running around firebombing buildings and beating people up?
Calm.
Yeah, I remember going to
movement.
I went to Philly, and there was a Tea Party event, and it was a bunch of people sitting in lawn chairs. Then you go to these leftist protests, and they're smashing up windows, throwing things in the street, fighting with cops. That's just what they do.
Tea Party events, they like cleaned up after themselves. There were all these times that the Tea Party had protests or whatever, and they would always like take their trash out with them. And the place was, I mean, it wasn't perfect, because not everyone's on board, but like it was significantly cleaner than when the left has a protest where they break, like, not only is it a mess, but they like smash windows and light cars on fire and stuff.
The Tea Party guys didn't loot the Gucci stores?
No, they didn't.
Surprising, right?
Shocking.
Yeah, there were little old ladies with little American flags and red shirts and American, flag hats, and they're waving them in a lawn in Philadelphia. And I was like, well, this is boring. Yeah, it was funny because I've covered all these protests, and I was like, man, this is crazy. The cops are firing rubber bullets, and there's tear gas. And then I went to a Tea Party event, and I walked around, and nothing happened, and they're just sitting in lawn chairs, and then they left. And then after they left, they cleaned up their garbage and picked up the chairs, and I was just looking around like, but nothing happened. Like, I guess the challenge for people on the right especially is there's no news when you do that. And so the left actually wins politically in terrifying cases where, for instance, when at Trump's inauguration, when they ransacked D.C., they all got arrested and then sued the city, sued the federal government, and won $1 million. They had to pay them, the people doing the looting and the ransacking. That's fascinating.
Insane.
What did they sue them for?
I don't know the exact thing, but I think it was like false charges. The idea was this large group of people, many just black-clad hoodies, were smashing things, setting fires. The cops surrounded a big group of them and then just arrested everybody. And then when they tried charging them, the defense argued, how do you know my client is the one who committed those crimes? And they say, we don't, but they were part of a conspiracy to do it. They argued that if you show up at one of these rallies wearing black bloc, which is a hoodie, a mask, jeans, you are doing that to intentionally cover for other people who are going to be engaged in extreme violence. And then they argued to the judge, so some random guy who happens to be walking down the street wearing a hoodie and jeans is now part of a criminal conspiracy? You can't do that. So a handful of people actually pleaded guilty. And then once things started getting pretty hot, like more news, more attention, more protests over the arrests, and more lawyers got involved, everyone started pleading not guilty. And then eventually they were forced to drop the charges. And then they filed a lawsuit against the city and they won $1 million.
Like a class action.
I don't think it was a class action. I'm not sure. But they argued that it was like wrongful arrest without evidence. And it's D.C. They're all Democrats. They're going to side with leftist protests no matter what. They're sitting there being like, these people are protesting Donald Trump. Come on. Like, you want to win an election and you arrest the Trump protesters? Yeah, you're not going to be able to pull that off. Again, this is why I say civil war. Not because I've made it the idea, because if a Democrat goes out, like look at the lockdowns. When they went out and marched in New York City for Black Lives Matter, they said, it was a Colorado Sun, ran an article, the Black Lives Matter protests reduced the spread of COVID. It's amazing. How about that? And then when people went out for free speech on the right, they had pictures of nurses standing in front of cars with their arms crossed being like, you're spreading disease. It's all just patently obvious to everybody. And I wonder if why the reason Donald Trump is doing so well is because people are just sick of this.
I know I am. I think so. I mean, when we read earlier that, Donald Trump said that he wished he had generals that like what Hitler had, I was like, you know what? Even if he said that in a meeting 5 years ago, I don't care, dude. I don't care anymore. He said it off the cuff. He doesn't really want to do that kind of thing. Like, no, I'm done with that crap. I am, and I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not a zealot. I just don't care about that crap. Like this whole villainizing bullshit. I'm done.
I agree. Even if Donald Trump's sitting there and he's like, I wish I had generals like Hitler, I'd be like, yeah, literally don't care anymore. I am so sick of the media running these lies. I am so sick of the far left violence. We had in the 2020 cycle, something like a list of 1,000 attacks on Trump supporters. You had a Trump supporter, I believe it was in Portland, Aaron Danielson, got shot twice in the chest by some far leftist with a Black Lives Matter tattoo on his neck.
And the Venezuelan gangs taking over hotels, like there are real problems happening in the world that it's not about this guy or her. It's like there are real issues with mass immigration, unfettered people coming into the country and taking over territory, like drug cartels on the southern border running fentanyl across the border and poisoning our country, like real problems that we should be focusing on as a nation. So when it comes to like liberal and conservative, I think conservative people, the reason why a lot of it is just sort of peaceful and bland is because they want to conserve the status quo. That's the nature of conservatism. They're not really out there to change things. They want to.
What is Kamala's pitch?
I don't know.
Donald Trump.
Yeah, he's bad.
Yep, that's
it's the same crappy fear-based thing about villain. Look at me. I'm not.
What's Trump's pitch?
He wants to take away interest on certain loans.
Car loans?
Car loans. He wants to make it so you don't have to pay.
Deregulate energy industry.
Yeah, he's actually putting forth ideas. He's been president for 4 years. He knows how the system works. He knows how policy gets passed and created, and he's actually got ideas. A lot of people like Tulsi Gabbard now has joined the Republican Party because she's fantastic. Just a fantastic nonpartisan human being that sees the humanitarianism in the Republican Party right now. It's not about politics. It's about like real people trying to do real change.
Even Ian is voting for Trump.
Really?
Well, Tim does a lot of my talking for me. I don't know. Yeah, I probably will. Yeah, I'm not voting for Kamala Harris, and I do not support Imperial people putting candidates into power without a primary. That is completely anti-democratic. It threatens democracy.
That's exactly like the King of England.
It is like a monarch putting their son in power or being like, who will you choose for your next leader? This guy or this guy? I picked them both.
Indeed. And that's why you have to support Trump. It's the only way to oppose the British crown.
Trump at least was chosen by the people. That's one thing I appreciate about his movement is he was chosen by people that believe in him and not some business bureaucracy that put him into power.
And it's not just that. It's that the primary was pretty brutal. You know, Nikki Haley was bringing Democrats over to the Republicans because they were trying to get her to be the candidate. Ron DeSantis mustered up a legitimate base in the Republican Party.
Vivek Ramaswamy was the best candidate. But the people love Donald Trump so much and they respect him that it's like, okay, that's the guy. That's your guy right now. That's Donald Trump.
He won against three pretty strong personalities.
Yeah. If he hadn't been in the election, it would have been a very intense, tight race between DeSantis, Nikki Haley, and Vivek.
Yeah. I don't think Nikki Haley could have won. I think DeSantis would have won if there was no Trump, because he was ahead in all the prediction markets too. But yeah, you look at the Democratic Party and they've appointed someone without any democratic process. I think for that reason alone, we must oppose Kamala Harris. She could come out with the greatest policies in the world, and I'd say, no, we cannot as a country allow the political appointment by party of our national leader.
I agree. If she had the best policies in the world, literally, I would consider it, unfortunately.
Nope. I'll tell you why you're wrong.
Why?
Because the dictator's going to come to you and he's going to say, Ian, you want graphene and hydrogen energy? I will give you all of those things. And you go, oh, that's a good point. Then he's going to get in
right,
and he's going to point his son, and his son's going to be like, cancel Ian's graphene.
Thank you. Yeah, you're right. You gotta trust the process itself. You need to respect the process itself. That's what this is about. Is
Bro,
respecting the democratic process.
Kamala will come up behind you and put her hands on your shoulder, give you a massage, and whisper in your ear, graphene. And you're going to be like, I'm going to vote for her. And then as soon as you do, she's going to throw you in the
the empire will offer you everything on a platter.
But you'll never get it.
Maybe you'll have it for a generation, and then it'll be taken away from you because the next emperor wants it.
You offer them absolute power through appointment. They have no obligation to give you anything they promised.
Yeah, we need to respect democratic republicanism.
See, the thing is, if we reject that Kamala Harris was appointed, and we say you have to win at the bare minimum your primaries, then what we're saying is, if you are running for office, you better be accountable to the people because they will vote you out. If Kamala Harris wins, the Democrats are stating to this country they can choose by political appointment who the nominee will be, and you will vote for it, and you will be happy. And that means Kamala can have no policies at all or any policy she wants. That means the next person that comes after her is going to stand up and say, I'm going to declare 17 wars. I'm going to strip all of your pension funds, and there's nothing you can do about it because we choose who is running. You're going to get Jack Johnson and John Jackson. It's going to be like Futurama. I think his tax policy goes too far. Well, I think his tax policy doesn't go too far enough. And you're going to be like, wow, this is awful. But you know what? Here's the reality. That's how it was for a long time. Like, did anybody really want Obama or Romney? It's fascinating to me. At a time when you have the zeitgeist, literally at the time, Zeitgeist, the documentary, you have the community, the culture of political people who are involved in politics saying, yeah, we want Ron Paul. We want Congress to declare wars. We want sound currency. And then you had the average person being like, don't know, don't care. The machine on TV, they told me to vote for Barack Obama, so I did.
And if you alter the time scale and kind of step back for a long time, you didn't even get to do a fake choice. It was his son is going to be your next ruler. Deal. You have no say for thousands of years. That's how the system worked. His kid's going to be your next leader, and then his kid, and worship my family. And we are very fortunate to have this American Revolution in 1776 led by these amazing human beings that put and risked so much for us to be able to choose our leaders in cycles. That has to continue.
Well, let's jump to this story from the Daily Mail. Social studies teacher 24 is arrested for sending threat to Donald Trump Jr. and Charlie Kirk. They say Daniel Ashbes, 24, is accused of making online threats against the Republican figures while they were in the East Valley for a political rally last week. He was booked into the Tempe City Jail on October 17th, and police were made aware of his threatening messages sent in response to an automated messaging service for RSVPs to the rally at the local hotel. Detectives said that Ashbes, is that how you say it? Admitted sending the messages during an interview. AZ Family reports. He faces 3 counts of threatening to cause physical injury to another person and 1 charge of using a phone to threaten or intimidate. I'm curious, where are the stories of the inverse? Where are the stories of right wingers doing things like this? I'm sure maybe there's something niche or otherwise, but this stuff happens all the time. I am concerned about what comes after this election, considering what we're seeing now.
Yep.
Tim, since this is your wheelhouse, I want to ask you a question. I was at January 6th all day, like I said before, and why did they let us stand on the front step of the Capitol building for so long?
What do you mean?
So I was there all day, and for hours we were just standing outside of the building, right? And I'm like, what the fuck's going on? I'm filming shit. And then it felt like as soon as they wanted to, they started mustard gassing us, and within 5 minutes, everyone was cleared. Why didn't they mustard gas us when we initially approached the Capitol building? Because there was police all around.
Well, I mean, this is actually, I have a funny story.
Talking about CS gas, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So
I'm not, whatever it is.
Yeah. So it's usually, CS. I'll tell you a story that Luke told me, but Luke could tell it better because he lived it. But this is a story he told me that they were at, I think it was like a G20 protest it might have been Pittsburgh. And all these protesters are in the middle of a park. And so they send a bunch of SWAT cops to line the park, and they're all standing there staring into the park because they're told to. And then they don't move. So eventually Luke said that he and his buddies, like all the other group, decided that they were done and they were going to leave. They all left and walked just between the cops who were lining the park. And those cops stood there lining the park with nobody there. That's it. And everybody was laughing, being like, why are they just standing there staring into an empty field now? Whatever, we're leaving. And it was because they didn't receive orders. These cops don't know, don't care. They're told, stand there, stay where you are, wait for further instructions. And they go, okay. And then they all just stand there. And they're trained to do it. It's discipline. I mean, if they broke ranks, things could get ugly. But without leadership, that's all they're doing. So what happens? Well, there's a bunch of people standing on the lawn of the Capitol on January 6th. Nobody cares. And then someone gave an order to fire tear gas.
Okay.
That's how it goes.
Yeah, I didn't know because they were shooting rubber bullets, and I was like, I got a clip of a guy who got a rubber bullet right through the cheek, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on? They're shooting like rubber bullets, and then as soon as they hit us with the gas, everyone left, and I always wondered like why they didn't do that earlier.
Probably because do you know what time they started firing tear gas?
The sun was setting.
Because it probably had to do with the. I think it was at 1:30 or something when people breached the barricades or breached the building. Around then.
They pushed over the little gate thing.
Yeah, on one side of the building they went. It could be related to that, but it's simple. Someone gave an order to do it. It was, I don't know. Maybe they realized that giving a tour to the shaman and letting people come in and take selfies with cops was a bad idea, and they needed to switch what the narrative was going to be, so they started attacking everybody.
I think a lot about that shaman, Jacob Chansley. I interviewed him. We've actually talked to him multiple times. He's a very cool guy. And how much worse things could have been if there wasn't a guy there that was kind of a symbol of peace. Like, he was telling people, stay calm, be cool. He served time for his experience there, but he calmed a lot of people down. And there was bits of violence. Ashley Babbitt lost her life. God, awful, awful. Some cops got hurt pretty bad, I've heard. Some people probably got roughed up, but Chansley was like continuously encouraging people to relax. And it could have been, I was talking to my father about, it could have been so bad, like bodies all over the place. And it was not.
There's a lot of voices of peace. I mean, I would encourage anyone who gets completely shadow banned to go watch my video of January 6th street interviews where I was on the ground all day. A lot of people were not preaching a hateful message. I barely found anyone who was preaching a hateful message. It was relatively peaceful. I mean, I know they broke into the building and stuff, but
yeah,
it was very interesting to be on the ground there. And the video, I think, is very interesting.
You have a video on YouTube of it?
Yeah, of January 6th. The YouTube's taken it down and reinstated it multiple times for like hate speech, then for promoting violence, but it's still up now.
Cool. What's it called?
I think it's just called January 6th Street Interviews, something like that.
Did you have any like insight that came out of that personally?
I was just like, I was just shocked to see the media say like, this is a second 9/11. And just the verbiage that they used about the incident was kind of crazy to me because, I was scared I've been more scared at like fucking Nelk rallies. I went to like this YouTube Nelk meetup where they're like throwing glass bottles. I was more scared at that than I was at January 6th. I was like chilling at January 6th all day. It wasn't like a very scary environment from my perspective. But then again, it's just anecdotal.
I'm pretty sure that these street takeovers are more dangerous and scary than January 6th.
Seriously?
Like January 6th was not good. Someone died. Or someone was shot and killed. There are people I think one person fell off something climbing and fell. Yeah. Someone got trampled. I mean, it was pretty bad. And it's a riot. Riots are not fun. But you look at some of these street takeovers and there's people shooting guns and they're swinging cars. There's a video of some guy like standing in the street and they do a donut and whack the guy with the tail. And
I was just with that guy this weekend, swear to God.
Oh, for real?
Swear to God, yeah.
I've seen that viral video.
And yeah, I was filming with them at another car takeover and they rammed a car into another car and then sped off. Like street takeover shit's crazy.
There's multiple videos.
The guys from Maryland
getting run over because they're doing spin outs in the street takeovers. There like tons of people have been run over by that stuff. Like it's really dangerous, and the police either can't do anything about it or don't do anything about it. And I mean that's I'm not going to say that it's worse than January 6th because January 6th is like a legitimate riot and stuff. But like I don't think that January 6th was even close to the way that it was portrayed because I think the narrative that the left and that the government wanted about January 6th was it's the worst thing. Obviously, they said, it's worse than 9/11 or it's as bad as 9/11. And they only did that so they could justify, using authoritarian powers. They could justify saying, oh, we need to put these people in jail. And that's why. And another thing that they did is when they put those people in jail, it was to frighten Americans. It was so that way people would be afraid of speaking out. People that are paying attention knew that there were a lot of people that were put in jail simply for talking. Right? There were people that didn't even go inside that were put in jail for exercising opinions that were unpopular.
Well, Owen Schroyer never went inside, and they arrested him. And at the sentencing, the document stated that he had said things online after the fact that warranted a prison sentence.
Mm-hmm. So what did I do differently than Owen Schroyer?
You were outside the building?
Yeah, I never went in the building.
I mean, maybe they'll come and arrest you.
No, I think it was about making a point with Owen. Honestly, I think it was really about
he was
making a
InfoWars.
statement. Yeah, he worked with InfoWars, and they were like, we're gonna make a statement so that people know, like, Alex Jones is a hot button. Now you see if you're cleared near Alex Jones, what can happen to you. And
there was there's that reporter, Steve Baker. Am I getting his name wrong?
I think that's the right name. Let me double check.
I feel bad if I'm getting your name wrong, buddy. But he went in with 2 other journalists. I believe it was 2 other journalists. One guy had a big camera and worked for a local TV station, and he was a legitimate reporter. They raided his house. There was him. He was walking around filming, and he's a reporter, and he got arrested and shackled. Then there was another guy who was a reporter who got no charges. But he wrote an article saying something like, inside with the insurrectionists.
Yeah.
And so the belief is because he called them insurrectionists, they said, okay, this guy's on our side.
Yeah, Steve Baker. He wrote for Blaze News.
He still does, doesn't he?
Writes for Blaze.
Yeah, we just had him on recently.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and he explained, and he believes that it was like a DOD level thing, that the intention at the highest levels was to get people to riot at the Capitol so that they could stage
It's such a basic tactic for
Well,
a government to be
They had all the
let's-
bleachers set up outside of the Capitol building.
because it was a permitted rally.
Yeah.
They were allowed to be there. It's kind of crazy. And then Owen Shore got arrested for it. But what Baker was saying is that he believes the intention was to have this rally happen. The DOD wanted it to happen. That's why they didn't bring in the National Guard like Trump wanted. It's why the police are standing around in videos. You can watch. You watch the video. There's cops outside. They're doing nothing. They're letting people go in. There's videos of cops being shoved, and there's that brawl in one entrance to the building. But there's cops taking selfies with people and smiling. And so Baker was saying that he believes the intention was not to evacuate the building. There was a cop who, of his own volition, ordered the evacuation without orders, and he got in trouble. Not for that specifically, but people think that's why. He believes that the DOD was hoping a politician would get hurt in some capacity so that they could justify this nationwide crackdown. And if you take a look at what they've been doing to J6ers, none of it makes sense. Nonviolent misdemeanors resulting in 3 years in solitary confinement? That doesn't make any sense.
That's crazy. Am I a J6er?
But if there was a politician who got hurt because they didn't evacuate and then these rioters stormed in and a senator or a member of Congress got injured, then everyone would be like, well, of course the J6ers are getting locked up and there's a crackdown. These people attacked sitting members of Congress on the day of the vote count. But nothing happened. So they're all nonviolent misdemeanors, trespass, and they're trying to put people in prison for months or even... I met a woman. She said that they showed up several hours after all the fighting and rioting, and they walked up calmly as people were walking around, went up to the door. It was wide open. They walked in, and there was no broken glass or anything. They looked around for a minute or whatever and then walked out, had no idea what was going on. And then a year or so later, the cops kicked their door in, arrested her and her husband, and they were sentenced to 18 months. And she was like, I don't understand. We showed up several hours after everything happened. We walked around. There was no signs. There was nothing. And we don't know what's happening. And now they're going to put us in prison for a year and a half.
Yeah,
I'm like, well, that only makes sense in a scenario where politicians actually ended up getting hurt, which they did not. Yep. It makes no sense to put nonviolent trespass in prison for a year.
So it almost seems like an attempted false flag incident, right? Where they're trying to bait something to happen.
That's what Baker says.
Yeah.
That the DOD was aware, wanted it to happen so they could use it as a justification for crackdown and arrest.
Yeah, I think the denial of extra police presence kind of indicates an allowance of the process to occur. Like, you would, for sure, if there was a riot and you were concerned about stopping it at the Capitol, you'd bring a huge police presence, military presence if you need it.
Well, there's evidence that Donald Trump was asking for that stuff and that it was just not provided.
Like Nancy Pelosi, right?
I'm not sure if it was Pelosi or if it was the mayor of D.C., but
Bowser.
He was saying that, hey, no, Muriel Bowser was she the mayor of D.C.?
I think
feel
so.
like she was the mayor of Chicago, but either way.
Bowser? No, she's D.C.
Was she D.C.? Okay, so...
yeah, Lightfoot was Chicago.
That's it. But yeah, point being, they denied, they said we can't come up with extra security and stuff. So, Trump was looking to prevent it. He was trying to get the law enforcement beefed up, and
they rejected him.
If I understand correctly, yeah, Bowser was like, we don't have the the people, and I think that had something to do with the defund the police stuff. I'm not positive. That could be just hearsay.
Yeah, I went to Joe Biden's inauguration, and they definitely had the people for that one. They had all the gates up, and I think they brought in like the military in some capacity.
Oh, you were actually on the ground for both, so you saw a difference in security for the inauguration versus.
Yeah, Joe Biden's inauguration was like they had like the whole military out there with their fucking automatic weapons. It was like, what the fuck is this? I was trying to get a good video. There was no people there. It was just military. And
It activated the National Guard.
Yeah.
So,
But at Trump's thing, it was just like there's cops standing around, and I'm like, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. My dumbass walked up to the Capitol building. You know what I mean?
What was it?
Pretty lax. I said if my dumbass walked up to the Capitol building, it obviously had to be pretty lax security.
There was none. So. After people tore down barricades, it was just open sidewalk to a building that's typically open to the public.
For hours, we were just chilling there. And a lot of people were just saying that they love America and that they felt like the election was rigged and they won a fair election. And that was pretty much the overarching theme of what I heard there.
Yep. Well, let's jump to this story from the Post-Millennial. Tim Walz invited CCP officials into his Nebraska classroom when he was a teacher. Wow, this just keeps getting worse for the guy, huh? I really just don't like this guy.
Look at his face.
I'm not a fan. There's something, it's just, this guy.
Sponsored
So that's the story. The incident occurred in February of '96 when a group of 3 educators from Southeast China came to Waltz's social studies class at Alliance High School to reportedly study the education system. According to a rediscovered Alliance Time Herald story, the Daily Caller News Foundation obtained a study of Chinese government data that showed the delegation included CCP officials who at the time were employed by an institute serving a Chinese espionage agency. The matter has sparked further concerns surrounding Governor Walz, the Democratic vice presidential nominee, and his alleged ties to the CCP. Yeah, Walz and his wife Gwen were sponsors of a student trip to China when the educators stopped by his school. I think it's pretty obvious that this dude has got a, well, we got to keep it family friendly. So he's got an adoration for the Chinese Communist Party. I was going to use a different word, but we'll just call it an adoration. My word rhymes with loner.
I think you can say that online.
It's just because there's kids.
Yeah, right.
Family
The reference too, because it's a character from Growing Pains.
Oh, you got a lot of kids that watch this?
Yeah.
Oh, my apologies.
Well, it's not that kids watch it. It's that people watch in their living rooms with their TV on and their kids they're screaming in the chat, please stop swearing.
Hey, my apologies, guys. My apologies. J6 are here. I'm sorry.
It's not particularly a surprise that he has, an affinity for the CCP, considering what we know about the...
He's a communist?
Well, he thinks that communism is just being neighborly, which is about as ridiculous as of a take on communism as you can possibly have. But it's not a surprise that he would do something like that, considering the situation with him being in the Tiananmen Square. And he said that he'd gone to the CCP multiple times, right?
To the CCP or to China?
Well, to China, yeah.
Yeah, to China. Yeah, at first he claimed it was 30, and then he says it was 15 or something.
Yeah, so...
Do you think there's a correlation between low testosterone and being a communist?
Yes.
But what about if you're a communist who wants to control the communist dictatorship?
High T.
That's high T then, right?
Yeah.
That's
you got good nutrition if you want to control the Communist Party.
You're you want to be the dictator, you have aspirations. That's high T right there.
Maybe you were low T selected. Tough to tell. I don't know how that party works. Picked
I'm
by
saying
the
like
party
someone
to
who
be
has the ambition to take over a country and become a dictator. It seems like a high T.
Is that how it works in China? And I don't know if you know the answer to this. Does someone seize control and now they are or are they selected by a secret shadow government?
Like the Goblin King. In order to become the chairman, you have to take out the existing chairman.
You got to take Trenbolone.
I am absolutely kidding. It's not Goblin King. It's like a single party voter, and then the top members of the party will vote, and then you've got allies. And I hear it's really mob-like and very dirty, that it may actually be more Goblin King than we realize,
Who knows who? It's like a Goblin King.
Well, it's like
mind.
If you're a powerful guy and you've got a bunch of buddies and you say, I'm going to be the chair, you put me in and I'll make it worth your while. Otherwise, it'll be bad for you.
So it's kind of
allies?
And then do they have a secret, like a CIA or an MI6?
Of course.
Yeah.
What do you know? Does it have a name?
They don't know the name. They call it Chinese intelligence.
Also, I don't think that it's all that particularly secret. Everyone's really afraid of stepping out of line because you just get picked up by the normal police. If you the laws are there's so many laws.
Have you seen the video of the guy strapped to the chair? And the cops are like, why did you post online that the cops are bad? And he's like, I was drunk. I'm so sorry. I won't do it again. And they were like, you were drunk. Does that mean you think the cops are good? And he's like, yeah, the cops are really good. And he's got shackles on a metal chair and he's naked.
Whoa.
Yeah, dude.
It's rough, man. It's real rough. I mean, every business has every business of, I'm not sure what size, but if you're a decent sized business, you have a representative from the Communist Party in the building, you know, kind of like it used to be with the,
Kind of like how we have DEI here.
Man,
That is what they're trying to do.
it's an example of like, do you work with your enemies to accomplish a greater, or do you work with, and I'm not saying that the CCP is evil. I don't know them all individually. As a unit, I don't like the idea of communism at all as a unit. I don't think it works properly. Top-down, controlled, state-run economy does not function at the local levels properly. You need a more agile economy to function and thrive. That's what the evidence shows. But that you will work with evil, good can work with evil to accomplish a greater goal, which is like a unified survivability for the species, and that whether you want to think of one, because like, I don't want to like destroy the system, whatever the system is. I want to augment and fix and make it better. And is it worth working with? Maybe that's Waltz's state of mind. I don't know a lot about. I heard
That's not his state of mind. His state of mind is he's a loyal servant to the CCP.
Is that
You don't fly there 15, 30 or 15, pick your number, and then invite the CCP to come to your school. This dude romanticizes about what's going on in China. He lied about being there. He lied about being in Hong Kong during the Tiananmen Square protests, which he was not. And then he get calls out on all the time. He's lying about everything. This dude is just he's smarmy, dude.
I saw the interview where they were like, so you said you think socialism is a good thing. This is kind of what you were referencing, Phil, but I think they said socialism, not communism. They were like, they did. And they were like, the definition of socialism is that the private property, there is no private property. All property is owned by the state. So you support that in something like
Socialism doesn't say the state, although it is true, just to clarify. They say it's publicly owned,
that. And then
which
he's
basically
like,
means the state.
he was like, no, I mean, I just mean it's like being neighborly was the quote. There's a really crazy interview where that interaction happens.
He's lying. Look at the policies he's passed in his state. The dude is DEI. So DEI is the attempt in the United States to create an American Communist Party. That's why they want, there's chief diversity officers. That is installing the CCP into your business. That's what DEI is. And I don't think this necessarily comes from China. I think it's Democrats largely who have romanticized and dream of having a government like the CCP does. Where who was it first you have Trudeau, who said what was it? He was a big fan of Xi Jinping or something like that. Mm-hmm. You had these Democrats a long time ago say that they envy how China can build a highway overnight and the United States can't do it. Well, it's because we have human rights here. You can't go to someone's house and just smash it to bits and then build your highway over it. But in China, they can. They don't care.
Yeah, they can also force slaves to go build the highway. I mean,
they'll just be like, your house is gone and it's going to be a highway.
I imagine. I said that out of hand. I think of these, some Theo Fletcher sometimes really comes down on me on Twitter. Shout out to Theo Fletcher, who sometimes I can't take it, but I've said some things about China that aren't correct, and sometimes I feel bad about that. And I don't know about them making slaves build highways, but I think that they don't. I think that they don't have workers' rights the same way that we do. I mean, I guess off the top of my head, I should really research that before I start making those statements. I've just heard stuff about the way that the Uyghurs have been treated in like camps, and that they're being.
I mean, whether it be the Uyghurs, the Tibetans, or any number of ethnic minorities, China's really been absolutely harsh on.
The Falun Gong was another group that apparently were persecuted by the government pretty ruthlessly, I've heard.
Yeah, I mean,
and then they formed the Epic Times, I believe, right? And they moved to the United States.
Oh, that's who did it. Okay.
Yeah, if you go to New York, Falun Gong people are handing out flyers and stuff. And then it was really funny because China started hiring YouTubers. They offered, I'm pretty sure I got offered this at some point. I got an email where they were like, we'll give you $200 to post this video to your YouTube channel. And then I looked at the video and it was a guy being like, these really weird people, Falun Gong, like, what's this about? And then it was like a mini doc that was like 5 to 10 minutes long from some white dude complaining about this group. And I'm like, I ain't posting that to my channel. What is this? But a lot of people were like, $200, I'll take it. It's just a commercial, right? And I'm like, no way, dude.
I read the Romance of the Three Kingdoms. Have you guys ever read this book? It's worth the read. It's like the Chinese Hamlet. It's considered an absolute classic, written by Lo Gongxiao in like the 1400s or 1500s or
like
something.
Wushu and Wei.
Yeah.
Three Kingdoms?
Yeah. And they've been Dynasty Warriors games came out of this Romance of the Three Kingdoms. The novel's incredible. I highly recommend reading it. And you learn all about the beauty of the culture and the way, but it really is, imperial propaganda. It's like talking about how wonderful the emperor is and how we need to restore the emperor. I want to become the emperor. Who's in control of the country? And it's like centralized control and authority. And it's like kind of gross that I worshiped Liu Bei and thought he was such a phenomenal human. And all he wanted to do was restore the power of the empire. And granted, it was 2,000 years ago. You know, what other things did they have going for him other than like a good emperor? They didn't really have the technology to establish a democratic republic in a lot of ways like we have now. And it's always made me love China. Reading this and thinking about going to Chengdu in the West and seeing the mountains and the temples and the history and stuff. But man, communism as an economy is just so stifling. And like the brutality that I've seen and heard about in that country is...
But it goes beyond just an economy. Like it's entirely, it's totalitarian. So it's not just the economic system. It's the way you live your life. And being totalitarianism, it's the thoughts that you have. Totalitarianism doesn't allow for dissent. You can live in, there are authoritarian countries where they don't care so much what you think, just so long as you shut up and do what you're told. Like, that's authoritarian. If it's totalitarian, they're going to be involved with who you can marry. Like the reason China had a one-child policy, because it's totalitarian, because they were dictating how many children you were allowed to have. They dictate whether or not you can have health care. They dictate literally what you think, which is part of the reason why they control speech, because if you can control what people are allowed to say, then you can do, to some extent, control what people think and what people are allowed to think. That was the whole, in 1984, the reason they wanted to go ahead and go with Newspeak is because they wanted to get rid of the ability to think bad thoughts.
You need to invent ideas or discover them, however you want to describe it. But the idea that there was self-governance or that there could be self-governance didn't exist until the founding fathers, largely. I mean, certainly there was, to a degree, democracy, but mostly around the world, kingdoms. It was divine mandate or someone who just inherited control. And the founding fathers, I don't believe it was the first instance of self-governing, but a lot of the ideas that came from this era were developed. And so, I mean, if you look at the rise of communism especially, right? Communism didn't exist all that long ago. It's it starts to rise in the late 1800s, early 1900s. Ideas have to be discovered. And so if you can stop people from talking about a certain type of idea, they can't even begin to imagine such a thing exists.
I've heard in North Korea that they don't have a word for love. Is that correct?
That's probably not true.
That was a quote, or I believe it was Yeonmi Park, who dissented and fled the country and said that they don't have a word for it.
They have to have a word for love because you have to love your leader. You have to love Kim Jong-un.
Yeah.
I
I read they have a poo tax. You have to actually pay the government in poop. And I'm not even making that up. I'm not even trying to be funny. I read that
Pay
online.
them in poop or for poop?
Like you have to give them a certain amount of poop for fertilizer. I'd like to fact check that. I
I don't think that's true because human waste is not good fertilizer.
Yeah, I read it online.
You could probably refine it, though.
Yeah.
You read it online. Now that means it's true.
Can we pull that up, young Jamie?
You can definitely get methane out of it.
Yeah. What do you guys think about modern day hate speech laws being passed in America?
Totally against it.
Yeah, it's
Well, it's unconstitutional.
too vague. Like, what is that even? What is a hate speech?
It's been brought before the Supreme Court on more than one occasion. And as long as you're not inciting violence, then the First Amendment protects, speech, even horrible speech.
Aren't they passing laws like in universities that if you're found to be anti-Semitic that you could get kicked out of university, or is that just...
That would be the university deciding that you can't say things, and they'll use hate speech as a reason, but that's not federal law saying you can't say things. They'll say, oh, well, you said something hateful, you made other students uncomfortable, et cetera.
Yeah, but if these universities receive public funds and they want to police speech, then they should lose public funds.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
They should have to follow civil law.
Yep.
If they want public money, yeah.
Yeah, these quasi-public-private organizations are really weird. Like the Federal Reserve considers itself one of those too. I don't think you're one or the other. Either you're a public, well, I was going to say public utility, but I guess you could be publicly funded without being a utility.
Maybe in 13 days we will have a communist administration with Tim Walz and Kamala Harris.
Yeah, I was thinking as you guys were talking about the communism, about how kind of like totalitarianism and imperialism, it's all can kind of become one weird thing. Like they kind of see like patrolling and controlling thoughts and speech. It doesn't just adhere to like communism. it can be definitely like.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's multiple there's different ways you can be totalitarian. You can be like it. There are some Islamist countries that are totalitarian. They're theocracies. You know, you aren't allowed to say things that would insult the prophet, and they would use the force of law to prevent that. They're police of virtue and vice and virtue, and I believe it's in Saudi Arabia, in the kingdom. If you're in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, you can get. You can run into the police of vice and virtue who will, I don't know exactly if they arrest you or if they just kind of slap you around or whatever, they can arrest you. Yeah. So, you know, there are multiple ways to be totalitarian. It's not just communism, but.
Are the police of vice and virtue different than the other regular police in Saudi Arabia?
I believe they are, but I'm not sure. I don't know the in-depth situation about Saudi Arabia, but they actually do have, like, if you break Islamic law, the police of vice and virtue will, you know, wrap you up and you can go to jail for that. So
I think an antidote to it is to keep saying truth, is to keep like using your free speech in a non-adversarial way, just in a very charismatic, loving way. Just keep doing it. Keep being a lighthouse in the dark for people to reorient to, yeah, this is the best. And so I keep making videos, YouTube videos, Twitch videos.
Let's jump to this story from the Post-Millennial. Kamala's UK campaign advisor pushed to kill Musk's Twitter. In response to the reporting, Musk wrote on X, "This is war." Indeed, we have the tweet. Exclusive documents working with Matt Taibbi report on CCD hate documents showing the Labour Party's political front objective is to, quote, kill Musk's Twitter through advertising focus, meaning harass his advertisers. See internal documents provided by whistleblower. Take a look at this. Internal Center for Countering Digital Hate documents show their annual objective is to kill Musk's Twitter. This is their internal monthly planner. Their goal is to also trigger regulatory action, although they are a tax-exempt nonprofit. And there it is. It says, annual priorities: kill Musk's Twitter, advertising focus, trigger EU and UK regulatory action, progress towards change in USA, and support for Star. They say AI voice launch Friday the 31st of May. U.S. policy engagement set up meetings with Klobuchar's team to seek a, quote, press release endorsement. Very interesting. So it would seem that there is, well, international interest, of course, in shutting down free speech even in the United States. Matt Taibbi wrote, British advisors to Kamala Harris hope to kill Musk's Twitter. Whistleblower documents from British CCD hate show it listed kill Musk's Twitter as a monthly agenda item. They are closely tied with UK advisors to Kamala Harris. Why does Kamala Harris have UK advisors?
Well, because, I don't really know, actually.
Yeah.
I imagine that it maybe has something to do with a similar situation where the CIA can't actually operate in the United States, so they would go to their foreign counterparts and they would say, "Hey, look at this person," because I can't actually do it. And so, like, a foreign intelligence operative would look into a person in the United States and then give the information back to CIA because they're not actually able to do it. Maybe they're getting around some kind of law by having a foreign entity do something here that the federal government isn't allowed to do.
Yeah, Five Eyes Spy Club. That's what they call that. That's kind of why they set it up, is so, U.S. can't spy on its own people, but they can have England do it or Australia do it, and then we'll spy on the Australians because they're not allowed to do it to their, and then we'll trade the data. It's really surreptitious.
That's how you bypass civil rights, by having the UK spying on U.S. citizens, and then the U.S. goes, we didn't spy.
Yep.
UK did.
Yeah.
They still got the information.
I wonder if they have a server that they can both access.
I mean, emails.
Yeah, right.
They'd just be like, hey.
USB sticks.
I think that was, I don't know the details, but I thought that was actually proven. Like, there was a dude that had a foreign intel agency like spy on his girlfriend to find out if she was cheating on him or something like that.
That probably happens all the time.
How
much, dude, I guarantee you there's NSA dudes right now just looking at, like, naked women. The joke on American Dad was that the CIA has a room full of TV screens displaying the front-facing cameras while you're on the toilet, and then Stan Smith walks in the room and, like, it's just part of the background. And you see a whole bunch of faces hunched over, looking down at their phones. They're typing with their thumbs, and it's just like, that's what the CIA does. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if you notice, like, Mark Zuckerberg's computer. He puts tape over the camera. Like, if Zuckerberg is doing that, you best be doing that too. But you do what you want.
You can buy little windows or little things that you can stick on your phone over the
slide
camera
'em.
and slide it over when you don't want to use it. You know, and those are
Yeah, but they figured you out, bro. They put the camera in the screen now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yup.
interesting.
They figured out. They were like, hey, the camera's in the screen now. Now you can't cover it.
Really? I've been thinking that would be a good thing
Bro,
for
let me tell
video
you a story.
chats
Let me tell
because
you
it will make it more eye to eye. But
There was a smartphone called the F1, I believe it was, had a mechanical front-facing camera. When you turned it on, a little thing would come up and go and pop up. So I used it for a little while, and then I was like, whatever. I'm gonna upgrade to the latest Android. I don't like these I like the Galaxy phones. They're good. I don't like these other Android phones. So I asked Allison, I was like, hey, do you want to use this one? It's a new phone. You have a new phone, and I'm gonna buy the new S whatever. And she's like, sure. One day she was browsing a website, and it opened and then closed. You know what that means? Website took a picture of her face.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Where'd that picture go?
oh god,
Yep. And how did it get permission to use the camera and do all that stuff? Because a lot of apps, it'll say like this app is requesting permission. I suppose if you allow your browser as an app to use the camera, if a website sends in a call to take a picture of your face, it'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
So to all those people out there visiting those naughty websites, I bet they got a picture of your face.
yeah, be overt about it.
And not a good picture of your face.
With like adult websites?
The O face.
Well, I'm just saying naughty websites, whatever that may be.
Holy cow.
Yeah, like a picture of your face making a weird face.
Yep, at least one.
Yikes.
Yeah, welcome to the new world.
Oh, dude, come on. The government's got everybody spank bank. You know what I mean?
Probably, yeah. I use Chrome particularly if I ever go to porn.
Could you imagine being the dude? Like, so Ian, you did content moderation for Minds.
Yeah.
And they made you look at just like the worst things in human history.
Well, fortunately not. Fortunately, it was reasonable to the point that I didn't have to see a lot of gore and I didn't see any child porn. Thank God.
But imagine you're working for the U.S. government and you're in one of these, you know, data centers that is stealing it. And I'm imagining at the NSA, they have just like different rooms for different things. Like these are political dissidents. These are pop star stalkers. And then they have like hell. And they're like, the guy who walks out is just like, his hair is all messed up and his eyes are blackened. And he's just like, how's it going, guys? And they're like, you know, the new guy walks in and he's like, who is that? And they're like, that's Jim. Like, why? What's wrong with him? Like, oh, he was normal 2 weeks ago, but then he got relocated to the hell room, and that's what happens to you.
Troops walking out to the front in World War I, seeing the guys coming back from the front, all broken and twisted.
I imagine it's worse.
Dude, I interviewed
Dude, the things
JJ.
I'm not even going to begin to describe these on the members only show. We'll talk about it, but we're not going to even describe the kind of things that might appear on those.
Yeah, we interviewed Tim Ballard, who's basically the star. The character in what's the name of that movie? Tim Ballard is the guy who went down to South America to rescue the children that had been kidnapped. What was the name of that movie? We went and saw it.
Sound of Freedom.
Yeah, Sound of Freedom. It was based around Tim Ballard, and he spent a lot of time reviewing video of children. And it messed, according to him, it messed him up. And I've interviewed other people that have worked in that line of work. And these are guys that are like seasoned professionals that go in there and come out with a lot of PTSD. Just talking to them about it, it's like, you can never undo that stuff. Just seeing it on a video. Oh, man.
Yeah, well, I guess if we're talking about the U.S. government, though, I wonder about the kind of people who are in those positions.
If it's like the same people for decades.
No, if it was like friends with Epstein and Diddy who are in those rooms monitoring the backhaul or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. The fire hose.
People that know people. Yeah, the fire hose.
Yeah.
So we called it at Mines.
The fire hose.
It's just
all this
getting
stream of
blasted
data.
with God knows what. You don't know what's coming next, and you just got to be like, is that safe for work? Is that legal? Is this one legal? Is this one legal? Fortunately, most of that was.
Let's be a landscaper. I'm not doing that job.
It was rough, dude. And I didn't realize how rough it was. I did it for about 5 years or 4 years, and I started to get to the point because I worked 7 days a week, 24/7. I just had to make sure that it was always clear, that everything had been administered, and I was the only one for a long time. And it would start to be where like I'd like put the work off for the day, and I'd like do it for an hour really, really fast. I'd just do it really, really quick, and I'd miss things. I'm like, I can't do that. And then there would be days that sometimes I wouldn't even do it. I'd be like, I just got to wait. And then the next day the queue would be doubled up, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm dreading this. I just didn't realize how traumatizing, in retrospect, how traumatizing it was. I just thought it was boring at the time. I was telling myself that it's just menial labor that I just don't. But it was like simple. It wasn't a lot of work. It was just what the work itself was like. And then I started seeing articles about like Facebook admins that are like, "Yo, bro, we gotta delegate this kind of work out to different brains because it's like poison for a human brain."
It sounds like you had no work-life balance there either. It's like 24/7 you have to be monitoring or thinking about this thing.
Yes, constantly. This was what my life was for like years.
You ever feel like that about social media, Tim? Like it's all-encompassing and it can just drive you crazy and it's always on the clock?
I think the problem with social media is that it destroyed culture. I don't know that I care so much about its ubiquity other than its combination of ubiquity and decentralization, which has just gutted most cultures. It's created this short-term attention span where great works are hard to come by, So we don't have music videos anymore. Now we have TikTok dances with a song. And, I'll give you one example. Actually, I don't need to give you an example. Just look at these bands, look at their Spotifys. Their number one song will be like hit song. Underneath it will be hit song 2x speed. Below it will be like hit song half speed. Below it will be like hit song remix.
Ace boost.
Yeah.
Because it's just for TikTok.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do that, like they're the chipmunks. They chipmunkify a song.
Mm-hmm.
And so you'll have a song where it's like the guy will be singing like, I'm gonna come get down with that. And then you watch it on TikTok.
Yeah. Skibbity toilet.
Yeah, just all that kind of stuff.
I've noticed that it incentivizes me to want to create that kind of stuff to get the algorithm to send it to the top, like shorts.
Albums are done. Like music albums used to be a big deal, a big release party. Everyone got excited. They showed up for this big party.
And it encouraged bands to get together and focus for like 3 to 6 weeks to write an album.
But it concentrated that
days.
one moment and created a cultural moment. Now it's just a constant stream and it's flat.
Yeah. Well, you're financially motivated to make that short form content and to pump out stuff constantly. Yeah. Like me, I only drop a YouTube video once a month or once every 6 weeks, and it's not the best business model.
Oh yeah, no, YouTube's gonna punish you like crazy.
Yeah, not the best business model.
Yeah, so there used to be a thing called skate videos, where a company would put out their video and it was like an album dropping where a team would have like 8 or 10 riders or whatever, and then each person would have a part in the video, and it was a big deal. There were huge parties, premieres at movie theaters, and it was like wow, and no one knew what the tricks were going to be on video. You can't do it anymore. Some have tried and they put the video out on YouTube, but it doesn't work because there's this funny story where a dude did a trick, a really good trick. And then he was like, don't tell anybody I did it. And some little kid was across the street filming on his phone and posted it online and everyone saw it. And now you can't sell it. The idea was like, we film all these tricks, put in a video, we sell the video, and it helps the company stay afloat because it's media that people like. Internet's got rid of all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Now it's just post a clip. It's a 10-second clip. You're going to watch it. You're going to get views. You're going to hopefully make money and build followers.
Did you find on tour that it was like reinvigorating for you? Did it remind you of how it used to be to make music? What was that like?
Well, I mean, on tour, it doesn't remind you of making music because you're performing. So that's a whole different animal. Like recording and writing and stuff is a very different experience than being on tour and performing the songs. So.
Would you encourage bands in the modern age to tour?
Yes. If you want to be a band, yes. But it's not easy, and Spotify has made it really difficult it makes it easier for bands to get their music out to people, but it's not nearly as profitable as it used to be. Like you used to go and like in the 90s, you would get a record deal and they would give you X amount of dollars to go and make a record. And so you could either spend it all on making the record, or you could spend it on, half of it on making the record and half to live on. And the amount of money that they gave you was, significant because they knew that people were going to buy CDs. So they knew that there was going to be a return on it. With the advent of streaming and stuff, all that stuff changed. Now you can make a record for significantly less nowadays than you could in the 90s. You don't have to go to a studio for everything. You can do most of it either in one room or at home or in a smaller space than a studio or whatever. But you still, you still have to be able to record drums and stuff like that, at least if you're in a band. But man, it's not the same with streaming. You just don't make, you don't make nearly the money that you used to make, or bands used to make.
Do you think, this is more of an ethical question, do you think that that's righteous? Because
No,
I asked the question.
Spotify pays for a license for the song, and one time, and then you get 0.0007 cents for every stream. It's horrible.
I used to, because I went through a phase where I was like, I think actors are overpaid. Like a guy does a movie, gets $7 million.
How many people
that's
actually
fine.
get that?
That's fine.
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like a professional athlete because it's just
called
such a
market
few
competition.
people. Like it's the best of the best of the
Robert
best. are
Downey
getting-
Jr. is going to get $30 million to do a movie.
Yeah, and like, what did he do? He sat around for 6 weeks. Like I've done that job. It's not worth $60 million or whatever they're
Yes,
getting
it
paid
is.
at the top.
Because
I mean,
Robert Downey Jr. makes $1 billion movie.
I guess he's getting a percentage of the return.
No, he
That's the
gets a
argument.
$30 million. So I think for like Iron Man 3 or something, it was like $30 million up salary.
And the assumption
And then,
is he's gonna.
and then he probably gets a couple points, or whatever. But they know. At first, they didn't want him. They didn't want Robert Downey Jr. For the first Iron Man because he was like an addict and unreliable, and then he proved himself. But it was a smash hit. Iron Man was amazing. Everybody loved it. Everyone loved Robert Downey Jr. They loved him so much. After they killed off Tony Stark, they're bringing him back as Doctor Doom.
So then the movie industry is still making money on sales for tickets and stuff, but the music industry has kind of collapsed in that
Well,
respect.
yeah, because there are some services that are like Spotify for movies, but for the most part, they have this, and this is probably the way it should be done right now for music, but for movies. So right now, I think Spider-Man: No Way Home is not available on Disney Plus. If you want to watch it, you got to buy it on Amazon. Because I think it's a Sony movie, so I don't know if it'll ever even be. Maybe it's not a good example. But when a movie goes to theaters, but after it comes out, it goes to Amazon where you can buy it. Then eventually it'll end up on one of these streaming services as like you pay $15 a month and you get access to movies. Netflix used to have movies, they don't anymore. Now it's like all Netflix stuff. It's just like a unique thing.
So Spotify should have like a buy this album $9.99 for the first month or 3 months or something, and then goes to streaming.
Yeah, it should.
I don't know that Spotify should do it because the actual person that made the record, you might want to say, okay, we're going to wait to put it on Spotify, or Spotify might say, maybe they'd say we're not going to take it right away. Because if Spotify takes it and puts it on sale, Spotify's going to take a cut of that. Maybe, and I don't know how much they're going to say.
30%?
They're going to say they're hosting it, so they're going to say, well, we're going to take a boatload of it. They're going to literally charge you for digital space. Record companies come up with all kinds of crazy ways to charge you, to back charge you. So I imagine Spotify would do the same thing.
Because it's kind of like the modern record company is Spotify or Bandcamp.
No, because the record company,
anyway.
it's
not
because
Bandcamp.
record companies are like, they give you something. Record companies actually go out of their way to promote your music. Record companies advance you money to do the record, and record companies own the record, right? So when you make a record for the record company, they own that music, and you only get a portion of it. Spotify never owns your music. They license it from the record company or from you if you made the record.
They do the promotion. They could anyway. You go to Spotify. They could.
Spotify doesn't promote. They put you in their algorithm.
Like how, right. So YouTube would promote a video to the front page of YouTube. Like Spotify could promote their up and coming $10 for the newest albums. You say what's hot.
You pay Spotify. They don't promote you. You pay Spotify to get a better spot in the algorithm.
Yeah, like labels will help you with like playlist seeding and things of that nature.
What you want to do is you want to get your band onto or your song or whatever onto playlists. And as you release music, your position in the algorithm gets better for you essentially. So if you put one song out, it's going to do X. Then you wait 6 weeks or whatever and put another song out, it gets better. And you wait another 6 weeks and you put another song out and it gets better. And that's the reason why bands don't put out a record and then have the singles come out after it. And it used to be you'd release a record, your first single would come out, then however long, 3 months later you put another single out, 3 months later you put another single out. Nowadays you put out a song, then you wait a few weeks, 6 weeks or whatever, then you put out another song, then another song, then another song, and then another song, and then you put the record out.
I guess, okay. It makes sense. I mean, that you can do that because the whole putting a record out all at once is just kind of a limitation of the creation of the body of like the record itself. It's like, I'm not going to make 12 records. I'm going to make one with as many on it.
You could buy it. They used to have CDs with 2 songs on them.
You could, yeah, like an EP or
Single.
A side, B side, or something.
Yeah, and then they
You
had
could've-
cassettes too with 2 songs.
I guess they could have. You could have went that route, but to be in the studio is just easier for bands to get in there, record all of it at once.
Well, that's what you do. You go in, you record it all at once, and then you release one single. Then you release 6 weeks later, you release another single that you recorded. You recorded in that one recording session, and then you record. You release a third single, and then you release a fourth single. Maybe you put out 4 or 5 singles, then you release the record. But the point of doing that is you're getting the best results in the algorithm that you can get for the record to come out.
Because it's now relying on a digital algorithm instead of radio jockeys knowing the song ahead of time and deciding what to give.
It's both. The people who are on the playlist will just be like, "Nah, we don't want this one."
Yeah.
Yeah.
But when you had radio, you would have someone at your label that would be your radio guy that would know the program directors of the radio stations that would play your style of music. So there was a guy that we used to work for Razor and Tie when we were at Razor and Tie. His name was Kurt. He was great, and he would know all the program directors at the radio stations that were likely to play us. So when we had new stuff coming out, he'd call him up. He'd be like, "Hey, you're gonna play the new All That Remains song? Come on, you got to play it. Have you heard it? Did you take a listen to it?" And basically, he would just sit there and pester him to promote the program directors to listen to the song and see if they'll go ahead and start testing it to see how it tests at the radio station, or if you have a history with the radio station, they'll just say, "Yes, the new All That Remains song is coming out. We'll play it." Like after. Go ahead. So our first, the first songs that we got onto the radio, it took convincing, because what radio stations want is they want to build a relationship. They want to know if, All That Remains is coming to town. We want to be able to say, "Hey, they're going to come to town, and it's, blah, blah, blah radio station that's bringing them to town, and they're going to come into the studio, and they're going to talk on, we're going to do an interview, and blah, 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 and we're going to be at the show, hanging out with the band and stuff." And they want to know that you're going to keep putting singles out that they can play, so that way they'll have you as one of the bands, and people will listen to that radio station if they like the band. So getting into that kind of group, or getting into a radio station, is harder. But once you get a few songs that they like, then they're like, "Okay, we will definitely play the new All That Remains song." There's a bunch of radio stations that nowadays there aren't as many terrestrial radio stations as there were 10 years ago, but there were a lot of radio stations that when we put out a song, they were like, "Yes, of course we're going to play the All That Remains song," because we've got great history with them.
We're going to go to Super Chats, so if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with everyone you know, and become a member at timcast.com. We're going to have that Josh Seiter Social Experiment expose video up Friday in the morning at some point for members only. And, of course, we'll have that members only show coming up at 10 p.m. tonight. But for now, we'll grab your Super Chats. Legama says, "Tim, I was worried you'd call it quits a few days ago when you had Landau on. Good to see you still with us, at least for now. Cheers." Well, here. Thanks for the Super Chat, good sir.
Shout out to Dave Landau.
Giza Moonshadow says, "Kamala is close family friend with Lauren, there's an E at the end of it, Powell Jobs, the Atlantic owner, and she is besties with Ghislaine Maxwell. This is why she did a press conference on the Hitler hit piece." Indeed. That was their plan. Michael Bohr says, "Congratulations, Tim, on becoming a father. My wife is 21 weeks pregnant after 4 years of infertility." Well, congratulations.
Oh, that's awesome, dude.
Stacy Strickland says, "Hey, Tim, please shout out my husband, Mark. His birthday is today, and he is now the big 3-0, Dirty 30. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Happy birthday, Mark. Good job."
Mark.
All right, what's this we have here? Villainous V says, "Been watching since Trump was elected and glad to see you still doing the live show with my favorite professional stick yeller. Also got hand surgery tomorrow. Wish me a speedy recovery." Congrats, by the way. Very much. Thank you very much.
Good luck and best wishes, man.
Yes. Rest those forearms, baby.
Ted Thornton says, "Their source close to Trump is a homeless man under the overpass that peed on Trump Tower." The overpass that peed on Trump Tower? That's the joke I like to make. The media will be like, "A source close to Nancy Pelosi's office suggests that blah, 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 and the source is a homeless guy in the alley." Well, yes, he's close to her office. What do you think we meant? They say, I love it when they say, according to a source who's familiar with Trump's thinking, and then they just write whatever. It's like, do people really fall for this? A source close to Trump, a source who knows Trump's thinking, says that Trump wants ice cream right now. Why would, what? You're going to read his mind? Yes.
I believe it.
Yeah. Who knows what the CIA's got going on, right? All right. What do we got here? Ian Slater says, what if Dems go for Geneva rules, World Court? What does that mean?
I don't know. I'm gonna look it up.
Well, I know about the World Court and the Geneva Convention and all that stuff, but what does that mean? Democrats go for it? Like they do that here? They want to put it here or something?
I'm not sure.
All right. Shadav the Vedmark says, breaking news, Sargon's channel is remonetized. Source, his live stream like 20 minutes ago,
Hey,
which ended now.
Congrats,
he
Carl.
messaged me about it.
That's awesome.
They brought him back.
Good.
Now that they've realized they should embrace podcasting.
Yeah, and Carl's very, very balanced, dude.
You know what's fascinating is that YouTube had the first big podcasts and rejected them and smashed them.
Oops.
It's crazy, right? They were scared. They were like, no, we don't want this. We don't want podcasts. Now podcasts are the biggest, most lucrative thing ever. They're like, we should do podcasts. Well, it's too bad, YouTube. Man, you really screwed that one up, you morons.
Still got a head start, though. X is coming, but you still got a head start. So
I don't know if
X
X is going to be able to pull it off.
I know they need a good video searching system.
No, the issue is that, 7-8 years ago, when we're all producing YouTube videos, YouTube, you could see in the analytics when they just downranked all podcasts. It was basically, there were no YouTube podcasts at the time. It was YouTube commentary, and they were like, we don't want this, downrank it. Now it's the biggest media and the most lucrative, and YouTube was like, let's make a podcast section.
Yes.
Now they're prioritizing it and boosting channels, and it's too bad. It's too bad. They could have been number one.
You still can be. Boost my channel. You'll be number one.
They are technically number one, but it's usually short form. So, a lot of podcasts are long. You'll watch, be like 45 minutes, maybe 2 hours. Like this one on Apple or Spotify or whatever is going to be like, it's, 2 hours long. But on YouTube, it's 10-minute videos. And so they're calling those podcasts, which is technically true. But
like 10-minute interviews?
Well, like when I do a segment on my morning show and it's 10 minutes long.
They call it a podcast?
It is a podcast. It's, it's part of my podcast.
It's funny that it all comes from the iPod. It all comes from Steve Jobs and that Apple
No, I don't believe that's true.
Well, that's what he claimed, Steve Jobs.
Podcasting was created by some dude. We talked about this on the show already.
Yeah, but then I looked it up and I got it that Jobs was like, they named it after my iPod.
No, POD meant something.
iPod podcast. We can look into it after the show. I don't want to.
We did this on the show. Oh, the etymology says it's a portmanteau of iPod and broadcast.
Yeah. Apple.
Let's see. Ben Hammersley, who coined it in February 2004, writing an article for the Guardian newspaper. It was audio blogging, community in September 2004, blah, 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 an iPodder dev mailing list. Okay, so maybe you're right. It was adopted by podcaster Adam Curry. Despite the etymology, the content can be accessed using any computer. The term podcast predates Apple's addition of podcasting features to the iPod and iTunes software.
Mm-hmm. The idea of podcasting came after people started saying it, but it was definitely that iPod.
iPod.
Such a funny name.
They were awful at the time. It was funny because like MP3 players were trash.
Did you get the first iPod?
No, I did not. I had a much cheaper and more effective digital MP3 player.
Yeah, they were.
It was this big, and I put a memory card in it, and I had I don't know all of the songs that I wanted.
Had like those circular dial things that you would spin your finger around on, the one button in the middle you'd push.
I hated
what
iPods.
Groundbreaking. Because I used to have a CD Walkman that I'd run.
Before any of that, I had a PDA. It was the Windows PDA, and it had a stylus, and I put songs on it, and I'd plug in my headphones, put it in my pocket, and I'd use that. Pretty sure that was before the iPod. This would have been, I think just before. Was it a personal digital assistant?
PDA.
Yeah. And it had a PCI adapter, so you could plug it in, and then it was like this massive thing, and you'd stick an internet card to give it Wi-Fi.
Oh, dang.
It was crazy.
That's really nice sounding.
I don't even know how do you remember where I got that thing?
What year?
This was like 04, before or like end of 03-ish.
That's awesome.
Because these things, it was really funny too. I remember when I had a candy bar phone, and I worked at O'Hare, and all the dudes from the Philippines had more advanced phones from Asia, and they were showing like the huge screens and like the games, and I was like, whoa. And I looked at them, I was playing Snake. Oh, yeah. And I was like, wow. And then I upgraded the Singular Rocker, it was called, and it had speakers on the side. It could play MP3s. Yeah, do you remember that one? Mm-hmm. And then they told me it had unlimited messaging, so I downloaded AOL Instant Messenger, and I was using it, and then they billed me like $8,000.
Did you dispute it?
Yeah, and they told me it's too bad.
What?
Yeah, I said, screw off. And I was like, okay, bye. I was like, I don't got any money. Later.
Dang.
It's like, I work at the airport, dude. I'm not paying
crazy.
this. It's nuts. Then we got the, what was it, the Razor?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah, the Razor.
The Razor.
I got the Galaxy S1. It was just called the Galaxy S. I was like, I guess I'll get one of these phones and I'll use this.
Is that like the first smartphone you had?
Yeah, wild.
Had the
That was
iPhone.
2010, I think.
The first thing that was close to a smartphone that I had was the Sidekick,
Oh
Flipped
yeah.
out.
T-Mobile Sidekick.
I had that too.
Yeah, that thing.
I had a BlackBerry before that with the little spinny ball.
Yep, and a BlackBerry.
Yeah.
That was fun.
All right, Buttertoast 1403 says there's already people saying their printed ballot is stating they didn't select a candidate or it's flipped their vote. Multiple posts on FB from Texarkana. AR citizens posting about it. I can't verify the authenticity yet. Interesting. Mark Clancy says Judge Joe Brown has pointed out that Biden can grant asylum to all illegals since 2021, and they can become citizens in 5 years, legal to vote midterms. Yep. Indeed, indeed. Drunken Rambling says Phil's right. It isn't the legitimacy of the story. They don't need evidence. They just need the rumor.
It is very concerning.
Yep. The Millennium says the DoD directive, I believe it's in context of National Guard counter-drug operations with state law enforcement mostly. I'm also suspicious, though. Yeah, what was that you were referring to earlier?
The I forget the.
That's a directive that allows them to use lethal force on American citizens.
Mm-hmm. And if just because it's intended to be for drug enforcement doesn't mean that it couldn't be used for other activities that the government wants to do.
This is like people that question the government or some ridiculous phrase.
All right. Peter Gohawk says this is why we need a federal law for voting. Well, like I was saying, the Constitution prescribes a single day for voting, Election Day, and then Democrats decided they would have election month and election after month. So now they're saying that we're not going to have the election results in for 10 to 13 days in Maricopa. And Fox is saying we won't know the results of the election until at least the 9th.
It's unbelievable.
I mean, that's just no. I don't. You know what the issue is that Republicans are like, okay. It's like, what do you mean? There's rules. The Constitution says Election Day. So you just go, no. We have Election Day. Election Day is over. What's the result? Well, we're still waiting for votes. It doesn't matter if the votes come in, the election's over. How stupid. Could you? How does this make sense? Today's the election day. Everybody cast your ballots. My vote will be there tomorrow. Okay, well, tomorrow is not election day. Election day is today. We're counting the votes today. Yeah, but my vote will be there tomorrow. It's like, okay, well, here's what we're going to do. When your vote comes in tomorrow, there's the trash can, and we'll put it right in there because that's not election day. But Republicans just go, oh, they're going to count votes after. I guess they win. I don't understand why and I'm talking about the politicians and the lawyers, just be like, no, we don't count votes after election day. It's like, you have 1 day to vote. You want to do mail-in voting? Fine. The ballot's got to be here on election day to be counted. Election month.
How are they able to do that, though? Like, is the implication that like the Democrats control that decision?
The implication is that Republicans just are, I don't know, willless. Like one really good example is how Christians don't vote, and this is like tremendously frustrating. In Charlestown, it's a really good example where they don't. They don't vote though. So like obviously they vote to a certain degree, but they largely don't. And what some people say is that Christians believe that they only have to go to church and their duty is fulfilled. And then it's just like, well, you can't fulfill God's mandate on earth if you don't participate in earthly things. But regardless of that, Charlestown's a really good example of they have a Latin Mass. They had this procession where 2,000 Catholics marched down the street in protest of the things we're seeing culturally. And then city council in a West Virginia town is liberal, progressive. And I was talking to one of the city council members who was a conservative, and he was like, yeah, Charlestown passed an ordinance in support of Pride Month. And I was like, how? What? Charlestown? I was like, we're in West Virginia. And he goes, oh, nobody votes. Conservatives don't vote. And I was like, you just had 2,000 Catholics marching through the streets. Like, yeah, none of them vote. It's really difficult to get them to actually go out and vote. Well, this is what happens. You know, maybe this is the time where they're going to wake up and they're going to go out and vote in bigger numbers. But you'd think Christians would vote. I guess they don't. We'll see this time around, though. We will see, because if they don't. All right, Ricardo Bonilla says, I already casted my early casted. You already cast your early ballot for Trump here in Tucson, Arizona, and my 2 adult kids are also voting for Trump. MAGA. Khalil Rose says, glad you're not quitting. Congrats on the new family. I listen literally every morning in the gym. Fight, fight, fight. Phil, you're the ish. Ian, you're okay too. JK, love you, bro.
Cheers, man.
So there's also youtube.com/TimcastNews For those that have not subscribed, you should, because that show is actually bigger than IRL and has been forever. Gets way more views per segment and gets way more views overall in less time, actually. So, IRL's 2 hours. The morning show is an hour 20. The morning show is broken into segments and gets substantially more viewers.
People love a good stream of consciousness, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's why they watch, I suppose. Then we have the Culture War on Friday. This Friday, we're going to be discussing the fall of empires with Rudyard Lynch, and I don't want to say who else is coming because we don't have them. I don't know if they're confirmed, but we're going to have a mini discussion and debate on what's going to happen after the election, civil war, etc., in greater depth, which should be shocking and fascinating at the same time. Dud Summon says, Ian has no idea about Australian politics. Gough was a disaster.
I don't care. He got removed from office by the Governor General. Whether he's a disaster or not, the people chose him, and then the King removed him, or MI6 removed him. That's not what I'm talking about. Is his quality of governance. I'm talking about the rule of law and people's sovereignty to elect their own leaders.
The real fallen demon says Ian is wrong. No coup in Australia. Gough Whitlam got in on withdrawal from Vietnam, but also brought in a bunch of Soviet-style reforms, upset the right of the country. Kerr used his constitutional power to remove him.
Yeah, Kerr apparently was the CIA whistleblower, said that the CIA referred to Kerr as their man. The CIA, the American CIA, referred to Kerr as their man, and Kerr is the Governor General that had Gough removed. You guys should look into it, man.
Then your problem's not the monarch then.
Well, the monarch's basically controlled by the CIA and MI6. And they're using Imperial strategy. They're using Imperial decree to remove prime ministers, or they did in 875.
Normies Get Out says you can't have capitalism without a free market, and no such market exists today. That is not correct. It's just in the middle of the ocean. So it's not a big market, but among the ultra wealthy it is. There are some countries, actually, where you can probably just do whatever you want. I don't know.
You can say that, but it is a market that's necessary, and it doesn't have to be a completely free market. That's why China went from being basically objectively abject poverty for the vast majority of its citizens in the 70s to having a massive economy now.
All right, let's see what we got here in the old super chats. Let's see. Matthew Picard says, it's good to know you're okay, Brandon. Glad you came out of the incident unscathed. We all know Mayo Mullen would have pooped his pants and kissed his boyfriend. Go watch Mad Men?
Yes, go watch Mad Men. Thank you, dude. I appreciate you. Yeah, I'm about to pass Danny Mullen subscribers pretty soon. I'll be dropping the Buckingham Mayonnaise Mullen merch.
Where do you get that? Where do people get that merch?
BuckinghamShop.com. Coming soon. Not yet, though. I still have about 30,000 subscribers yet. But yeah, Tim, this guy... in the beginning of my YouTube career, tried to badmouth me and kind of stifle my growth, and I squirted him in the face with mayonnaise in the streets of Austin, Texas, and it became a bit of a meme. And then now I'm about to pass him in subscribers, so it's kind of funny, kind of sweet.
All right. Schlip says, Tim, you're like my dad, except you're still here. Also, any word on the free boards for first 100 subs to the Boonies? I got the first email about it. Indeed, they're all sitting out there, and I'm going to go sign them, and then we're going to ship them all out. So everybody will be getting their boards, and we're very excited for that. Very cool. And we sold out once again of the Step on Snack and Find Out boards, which puts us at 350 boards sold in a month just on that one. And then the Boobies has sold over probably close to 300 already as well. Shout out to Sam for his Boobies board. Everybody loves the blue-footed booby. Do you guys know what a blue-footed booby is?
I do now.
Great bird.
They are Galapagos birds, I believe, and they have blue feet, and they are not scared of people. So when people show up, they just look at them, and they're all weird, and they got big faces, and they're funny. I don't know why they're called boobies, but people love it. People love boobies.
I wonder why they're called boobies.
Indeed. All right. CJ says, what do we got here? Congrats on getting married. Best wishes raising based Beanie Baby. I think Republicans won't get the House, Senate, and President. They will make gains at state level. What does the crew think?
I mean, I would like to see them get the House and the Senate, but I mean, I don't know. I think that the executive is the target for the left, so I think that they're intent on keeping Trump out. I don't think that there's going to be much. I don't think there'll be significant shenanigans down ballot. So I would like to see as many Republicans win as possible.
I have an answer to why they're called boobies, by the way. This is according to Brave AI, based on the provided search results. The bird is called booby due to a mishearing of the Spanish word bobo, which means clumsy or foolish. The early European colonists may have characterized these birds as stupid or clumsy.
I think they are. Watch videos of them; they're hilarious.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they like walk and their feet are like this.
Can you
and they're
get
like-
one?
I don't think so.
I want to get one.
Actually, you probably could. I don't know. I don't think they're endangered anymore.
Imagine having a booby and a capybara in your backyard.
Oh
That
my
would be so
gosh.
great.
Yeah.
Boo would probably fly away though.
Oh, they fly?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they fly.
Shucks.
Yeah, but capybaras are great.
I want one.
You ever see those videos where they're just chilling in the hot springs?
Yeah, I want one really
Or
bad.
like when all the animals are chilling around them. Like,
Yeah. They're like
know?
the friend magnet of animals. They just like all these, you know.
I want
you
to
ever, you ever see those videos where like all the animals are drinking at the watering hole and like the lion is there and the gazelle's there, but they're just like, we have a truce.
Yeah.
Like because you can't screw around with the watering hole, you know. Everybody needs it. If you get into a fight there, like you're in trouble.
Yeah, no
Tell
beef.
that to crocodiles or not crocodiles, gators.
But everything's a prey to the gator. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're all worried about that. But like the lion and the gazelle are sitting there just drinking the water. Like we'll get to it later. Right now, it's like if we get into a fight at the water and we can't get water, we're in trouble.
I'm hungry, but I'm more thirsty than I am
Right?
hungry.
Yep.
Yeah. Killing an animal in the water would taint it for everybody. Maybe they do understand that.
All right, what have we here? Call Me Tag says, congratulations, Tim and Allison. Parenthood is the greatest pursuit any one of us can make. Very happy for you. Today is my son's birthday. He just turned 4. Love him with all of my heart. Hashtag blessed.
Happy birthday.
It was the weirdest thing in the world to see a tweet from Newsweek talking about me announcing marriage and a child.
Oh, how
I was like, I'm scrolling Twitter, I'm looking at the news, and then there's a big picture of me, and it's like Newsweek, Tim Pool announces restructuring due to marriage and new child. I was like, why did they write this?
Because you're big news, Tim.
Guess.
Big time, Tim.
Influencer.
Congratulations, by the way, brother.
Oh, I appreciate it. Yeah.
How long till the baby's due?
I don't know if I'm supposed to say.
Oh, it's okay. Sorry if that was.
Yeah, but soon.
Not more, not 10 months. Not 11 months.
Yeah.
So
Soon.
I got one coming in about 9 weeks. Very, very excited.
Oh, right. Man, congratulations.
Yeah, stoked
Yeah.
for it.
Based. That is very based. All right. What do we got here? Brandon Whitley says Alex Jones has been saying exactly what Phil is saying, but not saying maybe. Saying it's 100% the plan unless Trump gets ahead and calls it out. Oh.
Well done.
Let's see. What is this? Touge technician? Is that how you say that? Ian Togue? Ah. Ian rolls 20s under pressure.
That's true sometimes, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, so the meme is that, in Dungeons & Dragons, you know how to play D&D?
No.
If you roll a 1, it's a critical failure. It's just the worst possible thing. If you roll a 20, it's a critical success. It's guaranteed to hit. So, like, it could be you can't. Your guy is too weak. You've got a guy. He's got no strength, and he's fighting a gigantic monster. There's no way you can possibly damage him. Then you roll a 20, it's a guaranteed success. And then like the master makes up some weird reason how it works, and it's hilarious.
You hit him in the eye, his one weak spot that you didn't know about.
No, but it's more. You got to be more fun than that.
So
It's like I have a level 1 squire. I mean, the squire's not a real roll, but like let's say you just started and there's like a level 20 dragon. You can deal no damage. You don't have enough strength, and then you have to be like you swing your sword and it hits the toe of the dragon, which makes the dragon laugh, and he lifts up his toe and looks at it, but then rolls backward accidentally, flipping down, and falling down a hill, and then banging his head against a tree and going unconscious.
Dang, that's Ian.
So basically, rolling a 20 is when you act like you shouldn't be able to succeed, but you do.
You KO.
Critical failure. So they say Ian either just totally misses or he just totally nails it.
You know what helps me totally nail it and roll 20s in a high pressure conversation is streaming live in the morning. Is when you go live and go stream of consciousness for an hour or 2 hours and you are rolling, you have a fantastic memory. It is loosening up my memory. It's awesome.
All right. David Foster says, I'm the executive producer for Redacted News. If you ever need any help with your studio stuff, let me know. Can help you get it set. Love the show. Don't leave. Well, we got some plans in the works, but things are going. Matthew McMillan says, Tim, did you hear some of the Daily Wire's computers fried themselves the same day as yours? It wasn't the same day, but yes, Michael Moles had the exact same issue. The control, it's almost the control board. They were trying to go live and it just exploded. So I don't think it literally exploded. It shut down on them. They don't know why. And it's like, how about that? Very strange.
What do you think's behind it?
And sometimes computers break.
Just coincidence.
Yeah. I think the issue may be that I don't know. Does the Daily Wire go live all the time? I mean, I don't think they're on YouTube live. They may be.
I assume they go live on the
The members only, right?
Yeah.
Indeed.
Is it Ben Shapiro, Daily Wire?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Michael Knowles was tweeting that he was trying to do his show live, and then it. All right, let's grab some more super chats. What have we got here? Edmondo says, super cool to see Brandon on the show. Sorry to hear about what happened to you and your crew, but glad you're all right. Much love and keep on cold ass riding, brother.
Yeah. Can you imagine if I got shot in the head?
That would be terrible.
But you did get shot, right?
I didn't get shot.
That's crazy.
Just by luck.
Switches.
How many
60
people
rounds.
got hit?
Well, that's the thing about switches is they miss.
Yeah, that like
Terrible aim.
Right.
yeah, like they did. Like I imagine they weren't like
No.
front sight and like both hands on it. Probably just
I'm not a gangster and I don't want any problem with anybody. And, I didn't work with the police to get these people arrested. I don't want any problems. I want it to be done with the shooting. But, you guys they have terrible aim, like pathetic aim.
Well, when
you're right across the street, 60 rounds, you only landed 4.
Bro, that's a switch. That's why full auto is. It's funny when
Not practical.
Democrats are like, we have to ban full auto, and it's like, dude, full auto. These people miss everything. They're
I'm an example.
Did anyone ever play a video game with full auto? Come on. They simulate when you're spraying and you're missing, and then you're trying to hold the recoil back.
to be fair, like dudes that are like gangbanging and stuff, they're not at the range.
They
on
never
the
hit the
weekends.
range.
They're not, because if you have a full auto Glock, like I've shot a full auto Glock, and you can control them.
Yeah.
But you're gonna have both hands on it, and you're gonna be looking, down the sights. You're gonna
not
be
cool.
doing that.
Yeah.
That's not.
No, I mean, none of it's cool. Don't shoot people. All right, everybody, if you haven't already, would you kindly smash that like button, subscribe to the show, share it with everyone you know, become a member at timcast.com, because we're going to go in deep detail on this story and more stories that you've got for us, Brandon. So I think it'll be really interesting if you guys want to hear what happened in Chicago. I know I certainly do. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. And again, smash that like button. Brandon, do you want to shout anything out?
I have a video coming out about life in South Lebanon, either tomorrow or the next day. I'm a bit worried that it's going to get my channel in some hot water. So if you guys could just search that out when I drop it, I'd really appreciate that.
Right on.
Great to meet you, man.
Yeah.
Fascinating story. Congratulations on the big news.
Thank you so
coming
much.
up with the child and everything.
Dream come true.
To see you, homie.
Biggest accomplishment of my life, having a kid. Swear to God.
God, that's awesome.
Awesome, man.
Hey, follow me at Ian Crossland. And seriously, I do go live in the mornings. Not every morning, but pretty frequently. I like to go live in the day at some point. So follow me at YouTube at Ian Crossland, Twitch, big time on Twitch, and on X, Ian Crossland. I'll see you then.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. I'm Phil That Remains Official on Instagram. The band is All That Remains. You can check out our new video for this song called No Tomorrow. You can check out Divine, and you can check out Let You Go, all on YouTube. And don't forget, The Left Lane is for Crime.
Right on, everybody. We will see you all over at timcast.com in about a minute. Thanks for hanging out.